right now in the midst of the inauguration ceremony. We have just seen the first woman ever sworn in as Vice President of the United States. And of course, I'm talking about Kamala Harris, also the first woman of color sworn in as Vice President of the United States. We are now awaiting the swearing in of Joe Biden, and which should happen momentarily. But with that said, let's cue up the start of the show, and we will headline it. And when we come back, we will see Joe Biden being sworn in.
Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
If I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Wednesday, January 20th, 2021. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Donald Trump has vacated the White House, literally moments away from no longer being president. And on a day when the number of dead in this country from COVID-19 breaches the 400,000 person mark. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's sworn in as president in moments. Last night and through this morning, Donald Trump pardons 144 people, including Steve Bannon, who was charged with bilking Donald Trump's own supporters. Meanwhile, Biden primed to unleash a blitz of executive actions and to issue tons of orders to undo last-minute Trump administration actions themselves. Josh Hawley blocks a quick confirmation of Biden's DHS pick. Janet Yellen implores Congress to pass COVID relief. Donald Trump floats starting a new political party. And joining us later in the program, Waleed Shahid. He is a spokesperson for the Justice Democrats, to talk about the challenges that Biden faces, and in particular, what progressives face with a Joe Biden administration. All this and more on today's program. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Forgive the cold opening today. Joined, as always, with Emma Vigland. Emma, how are you?
I'm well. I mean, I'm frustrated by the obsession with the pomp and circumstance of the inauguration, but I will say, and I will try to get past my cynicism, it is a relief that Donald Trump is no longer in the White House. Indeed. And, and I will say this. I mean, I have the similar sort of mixed emotions on some level because, we have, in particular in this situation, we have 400,000 people dead. We have a pandemic that is raging out of control. We have the same Senate we had yesterday, although I guess it's actually going to be different today. It's going to be 50-50. We have the same Republican Party that we had yesterday. We have the same Supreme Court that we have yesterday. We have a judiciary that is stacked full of Federalist Society and arch conservatives. And there needs to be real change. Okay. But with that said,
let's allow ourselves a moment to appreciate the fact that Donald Trump is just about no longer to be president and Joe Biden's about to be sworn in. Let's watch that live now. Here is John Roberts to give the oath of office.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the oath of office, followed by musical honors.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joseph Robinette Biden, Jr., do solemnly swear.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden, Jr., do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
Office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
And there it is, Joe Biden sworn in as the 46th president of the United States. Now, my understanding is that Donald Trump still retains the nuclear codes until 12 p.m. on the nose, 12 noon on the nose. I may be mistaken about that, but that is my understanding. Now, of course, we don't.
But he has left the White House, which he did this morning, and ducked out. Mike Pence is at the inauguration. Trump is
That's
not.
right. Donald Trump did not attend the inauguration, nor did, of course, Melania Trump. I guess he was a little bit embarrassed that he lost. Apparently, he did leave a note.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
I was about to say I would pay an untold amount of money to be the first to read that note. I need it right now.
It will be actually fascinating to see if they do release the note, because on one hand, I could see. I mean, I presume if the note is not absolutely nutso, that Joe Biden would release it, right? I mean, if it actually made Donald Trump look good, he would probably release the note in some fashion or another, as a way of trying to unify the country. That is, of course, the theme today. That's going to be the theme of Joe Biden's speech. And, you know, again, it is hard to watch all of this without a certain level of cynicism and without a certain level of concern. I was an adult when Bill Clinton was sworn in after 8 years of Ronald Reagan and 4 years of George Herbert Walker Bush. I think our sense was that was 12 years of Reagan. There was a palpable sense of relief that Ronald Reagan was gone. But Bill Clinton was elected with only 45% of the vote in 1992. And here we go. Here is Joe Biden's speech. We will take all of this for folks. He's introduced by Senator Amy Klobuchar. Here is the 46th president of the United States, also the oldest president ever sworn in. In fact, he will be the oldest president on day one, even older than Ronald Reagan was when Ronald Reagan left office.
That's unbelievable.
It is really unbelievable. Here is Joe Biden.
Chief Justice Roberts, Vice President Harris, Speaker Pelosi, Leader Schumer, Leader McConnell, Vice President Pence, and my distinguished guests, my fellow Americans. This is America's day. This is Democracy's Day, a day of history and hope, of renewal and resolve. Through a crucible for the ages, America has been tested anew, and America has risen to the challenge. Today, we celebrate the triumph not of a candidate, but of a cause, the cause of democracy. The people, the will of the people has been heard, and the will of the people has been heeded. We've learned again that democracy is precious, democracy is fragile, and at this hour, my friends, democracy has prevailed. So now, on this hallowed ground where just a few days ago, violence sought to shake the Capitol's very foundation, we come together as one nation, under God, indivisible, to carry out the peaceful transfer of power as we have for more than 2 centuries. As we look ahead in our uniquely American way, restless, bold, optimistic, and set our sights on the nation we know we can be and we must be. I thank my predecessors of both parties for their presence here today. I thank them from the bottom of my heart. And I know the resilience of our Constitution and the strength of our nation, as does President Carter, who I spoke with last night, who cannot be with us today, but whom we salute for his lifetime in service. I've just taken the sacred oath each of those patriots have taken, the oath first sworn by George Washington. But the American story depends not on any one of us, not on some of us, but on all of us, on we, the people, who seek a more perfect union. This is a great nation. We are good people. And over the centuries, through storm and strife, in peace and in war, we've come so far. But we still have far to go. We'll press forward with speed and urgency, for we have much to do in this winter of peril and significant possibilities. Much to repair, much to restore, much to heal, much to build, and much to gain. Few people in our nation's history have been more challenged or found a time more challenging or difficult than the time we're in now. Once-in-a-century virus that silently stalks the country. It's taken as many lives in 1 year as America lost in all of World War II. Millions of jobs have been lost. Hundreds of thousands of businesses closed. A cry for racial justice, some 400 years in the making, moves us. The dream of justice for all will be deferred no longer. A cry for survival comes from the planet itself, a cry that can't be any more desperate or any more clear. And now, a rise of political extremism, white supremacy, domestic terrorism, that we must confront and we will defeat. To overcome these challenges, to restore the soul and secure the future of America, requires so much more than words. It requires the most elusive of all things in a democracy: unity. Unity. In another January, on New Year's Day in 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. When he put pen to paper, the president said, and I quote, "If my name ever goes down into history, it'll be for this act, and my whole soul is in it." My whole soul is in it. Today, on this January day, my whole soul is in this, bringing America together, uniting our people, uniting our nation. And I ask every American to join me in this cause. Uniting to fight the foes we face: anger, resentment and hatred, extremism, lawlessness, violence, disease, joblessness, and hopelessness. With unity, we can do great things, important things. We can right wrongs. We can put people to work in good jobs. We can teach our children in safe schools. We can overcome the deadly virus. We can reward work and rebuild the middle class and make health care secure for all. We can deliver racial justice, and we can make America once again the leading force for good in the world. I know speaking of unity can sound to some like a foolish fantasy these days. I know the forces that divide us are deep and they are real. But I also know they are not new. Our history has been a constant struggle between the American ideal that we're all created equal and the harsh, ugly reality that racism, nativism, fear, demonization have long torn us apart. The battle is perennial, and victory is never assured. Through Civil War, the Great Depression, World War, 9/11, through struggle, sacrifice, and setbacks, our better angels have always prevailed. In each of these moments, enough of us have come together to carry all of us forward. And we can do that now. History, faith, and reason show the way of unity. We can see each other not as adversaries, but as neighbors. We can treat each other with dignity and respect. We can join forces, stop the shouting, and lower the temperature. For without unity, there is no peace, only bitterness and fury. No progress, only exhausting outrage. No nation, only a state of chaos. This is our historic moment of crisis and challenge, and unity is the path forward. And we must meet this moment as the United States of America. If we do that, I guarantee you we will not fail. We have never, ever, ever, ever failed in America when we've acted together. And so today, at this time, in this place, let's start afresh, all of us. Let's begin to listen to one another again, hear one another, see one another, show respect to one another. Politics doesn't have to be a raging fire, destroying everything in its path. Every disagreement doesn't have to be a cause for total war. And we must reject the culture in which facts themselves are manipulated and even manufactured. My fellow Americans, we have to be different than this. America has to be better than this. And I believe America is so much better than this. Just look around. Here we stand in the shadow of the Capitol Dome, as was mentioned earlier, completed amid the Civil War, when the Union itself was literally hanging in the balance. Yet we endured. We prevailed. Here we stand, looking out on the great mall where Dr. King spoke of his dream. Here we stand where 108 years ago, at another inaugural, thousands of protesters tried to block brave women marching for the right to vote. And today, we mark the swearing in of the first woman in American history elected to national office, Vice President Kamala Harris. Don't tell me things can't change. Here we stand across the Potomac from Arlington Cemetery, where heroes who gave the last full measure of devotion rest in eternal peace. And here we stand, just days after a riotous mob thought they could use violence to silence the will of the people, to stop the work of our democracy, to drive us from this sacred ground. It did not happen. It will never happen. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Not ever. To all those who supported our campaign, I'm humbled by the faith you've placed in us. To all those who did not support us, let me say this. Hear me out as we move forward. Take a measure of me and my heart. And if you still disagree, so be it. That's democracy. That's America. The right to dissent peaceably within the guardrails of our republic is perhaps this nation's greatest strength. Yet hear me clearly. Disagreement must not lead to disunion. And I pledge this to you. I will be a president for all Americans. All Americans. And I promise you, I will fight as hard for those who did not support me as for those who did. Many centuries ago, St. Augustine, a saint of my church, wrote that a people was a multitude defined by the common objects of their love. Defined by the common objects of their love. What are the common objects we as Americans love that define us as Americans? I think we know. Opportunity, security, liberty, dignity, respect, honor, and yes, the truth. Recent weeks and months have taught us a painful lesson. There is truth and there are lies. Lies told for power and for profit. And each of us has a duty and a responsibility as citizens, as Americans, and especially as leaders. Leaders who have pledged to honor our Constitution and protect our nation, to defend the truth and defeat the lies. Look, I understand that many of my fellow Americans view the future with fear and trepidation. I understand they worry about their jobs. I understand, like my dad, they lay in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering, can I keep my health care? Can I pay my mortgage? Thinking about their families, about what comes next. I promise you, I get it. But the answer is not to turn inward, to retreat into competing factions, distrusting those who don't look like you, or worship the way you do, or don't get their news from the same sources you do. We must end this uncivil war that pits red against blue, rural versus urban, conservative versus liberal. We can do this if we open our souls instead of hardening our hearts, if we show a little tolerance and humility, and if we're willing to stand in the other person's shoes, as my mom would say, just for a moment, stand in their shoes. Because here's the thing about life. There's no accounting for what fate will deal you. Some days, when you need a hand. There are other days when we're called to lend a hand. That's how it has to be. That's what we do for one another. And if we are this way, our country will be stronger, more prosperous, more ready for the future. And we can still disagree. My fellow Americans, in the work ahead of us, we're going to need each other. We need all our strength to persevere through this dark winter. We're entering what may be the toughest and deadliest period of the virus. We must set aside politics and finally face this pandemic as one nation. One nation. And I promise you this, as the Bible says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. We will get through this together. Together. Look, folks, all my colleagues I serve with in the House and the Senate up here, we all understand the world is watching all of us today. So here's my message to those beyond our borders. America has been tested, and we've come out stronger for it. We will repair our alliances and engage with the world once again, not to meet yesterday's challenges, but today's and tomorrow's challenges. And we'll lead not merely by the example of our power, but by the power of our example. We'll be a strong and trusted partner for peace, progress, and security. Look, you all know we've been through so much in this nation. And in my first act as president, I'd like to ask you to join me in a moment of silent prayer. Remember all those who we lost in this past year to the pandemic, those 400,000 fellow Americans, moms, dads, husbands, wives, sons, daughters, friends, neighbors, and coworkers. We'll honor them by becoming the people and the nation we know we can and should be. So I ask you, let's say a silent prayer for those who've lost their lives and those left behind, and for our country. Amen. Folks, this is a time of testing. We face an attack on our democracy and on truth, a raging virus, growing inequity, the sting of systemic racism, a climate in crisis, America's role in the world. Any one of these would be enough to challenge us in profound ways. But the fact is, we face them all at once, presenting this nation with one of the gravest responsibilities we've had. Now we're going to be tested. Are we going to step up, all of us? It's time for boldness, for there's so much to do. And this is certain. I promise you, we will be judged, you and I, by how we resolve these cascading crises of our era. We will rise to the occasion is the question. Will we master this rare and difficult hour? Will we meet our obligations and pass along a new and better world to our children? I believe we must. I'm sure you do as well. I believe we will. And when we do, we'll write the next great chapter in the history of the United States of America, the American story. A story that might sound something like a song that means a lot to me. It's called American Anthem. There's one verse that stands out, at least for me, and it goes like this. The work and prayers of century have brought us to this day. What shall be our legacy? What will our children say? Let me know in my heart when my days are through. America, America, I gave my best to you. Let's us add our own work and prayers to the unfolding story of our great nation. If we do this, then when our days are through, our children and our children's children will say of us, they gave their best, they did their duty, they healed a broken land. My fellow Americans, I close the day where I began, with the sacred oath. Before God and all of you, I give you my word. I will always level with you. I will defend the Constitution. I'll defend our democracy. I'll defend America. And I'll give all of you, keep everything I do in your service, thinking not of power, but of possibilities, not of personal interest, but the public good. And together, we shall write an American story of hope, not fear, of unity, not division, of light, not darkness, a story of decency and dignity, love and healing, greatness and goodness. May this be the story that guides us, the story that inspires us, and the story that tells ages yet to come that we answered the call of history. We met the moment. Democracy and hope, truth and justice did not die on our watch but thrived. That America secured liberty at home and stood once again as a beacon to the world. That is what we owe our forebears, one another, and generation to follow. So, with purpose and resolve, we turn to those tasks of our time, sustained by faith, driven by conviction, and devoted to one another and the country we love with all our hearts. May God bless America, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, America.
And so there it is, ladies and gentlemen.
Joseph Robinette Biden has been sworn in.
We can turn down the audio there. Joe Biden sworn in as president, the 46th president of the United States. Kamala Harris sworn in as the, is it 46 vice presidents? I have a feeling there might have been a couple more, actually. But certainly the first female vice president in the history of the United States. We're going to take a quick break. We should also say that during the course of that speech, the president, President Biden, became the official president. He was sworn in, and Donald Trump's term officially ended at 12 noon. I think he began the speech a couple of minutes before that. And, of course, Donald Trump, as far as we know, is in a bunker in his golf resort in Florida.
Yeah, I wonder how he's spending his day today.
I can only imagine. We will speculate a little bit on that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Waleed Shahid. He is the spokesperson for Justice Democrats. And I will explain when we come back to why we're going to be talking to him in just a moment. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with more. I got an ad, guys. Hey, this episode is brought to you by Magic Spoon. So it wasn't my breakfast this morning, actually. Emma, we've never really talked about how what your breakfast habits are.
Well, I do enjoy cereal if I'm on the move, right? So I'll usually try to have eggs and sausages or something like that. But cereal, I do love.
Do yourself a little favor. If you will look over into where the kitchen area is, you will see, I think there's probably 2.5 boxes of cinnamon there. I never let it get below 1 box of cinnamon.
Well, it's hard with the plastic divider still up, but
oh, that's right. Well, you can cross the plastic divide, grab a handful. You got to try this out. But it's not just a question of you're going to enjoy it. The point is, too, this is cereal that is not full of junk. Magic Spoon has amazing flavors that you're going to love, but it has it without all the bad stuff. It's a cereal company that's discovered a way to recreate your favorite childhood cereals with 0 sugar, 11 grams of protein, and only 3 net grams of carbs in each serving. Many of you folks have asked, so now you can finally build your very own custom variety box. You can choose from the best-selling cocoa, fruity, frosted, blueberry flavors, plus the brand new flavors, including peanut butter and cinnamon. Cinnamon, of course, my favorite. Peanut butter and chocolate and cocoa, I would say, are tied for second. I'm
going to order some fruity. I am. I would love to get back into fruity cereal without the guilt and the sugar hangover.
You and Saul could sit down with that. Not only is it without all the bad stuff, it's keto friendly, it's gluten free, it's grain free, it's soy free, it's low carb, it's GMO free. You can go to magicspoon.com/majority-report, grab a variety pack, try it today. Be sure to use our promo code Majority Report at checkout. You save $5 off your order. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. That's magicspoon.com/Majority Report. Use the code Majority Report to save $5 off. We thank Magic Spoon for sponsoring this podcast. I thank them for sponsoring my breakfast, frankly. I don't know, 5 times out of the week. And my snacking, I have to say. My cereal consumption has now broken out of the breakfast dungeon. All right. Do we have Waleed? All right, let's bring him in. We do, or you don't?
We do.
Okay, great. Let's bring him in. And Waleed Shahid is the spokesperson for Justice Democrats. And as he comes in, let me explain why I wanted to talk to Waleed today, because I was saying before Joe Biden started to speak, I was in my late 20s when Bill Clinton became president. I was in my early 40s when Barack Obama became president. And I remember the relief feeling that president is gone, whether it was Reagan era or whether it was George Bush. And in both instances, there was a sense that the country sort of went to sleep on some level, and the problems that were pre-existing maintained themselves, and they were not addressed. And we have these problems. And Waleed, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I wanted to bring you on because I wanted to start from day one. There was a very long honeymoon for Barack Obama. It wasn't until months later that progressives started to realize, like, hey, wait a second, he's not doing what he said about the bankruptcy cram down and whatnot. Now, obviously, we have a situation with a pandemic here. So Joe Biden's job number one, I think, across the ideological spectrum, unless you start getting into sort of conservative land, frankly, is you got to address this. But there's a lot of other things that go with addressing that and can build resiliency and durability within our society. From your perspective at Justice Democrats, like, what are those things?
You're talking about in terms of the policy stuff, or what is working in terms of like how we plan to pressure Biden?
Well, let's talk about the policy things about okay, what you want to pressure him about. I mean, how you're going to pressure him is one thing, but what are the things that from your perspective are progressives? And frankly, you know, we're talking about a lot of young people out there, and by young, I mean below the age of 40, who, when they hear Joe Biden give a speech about unity, they're all like, well, that's well and good. But the fact is we have some real fractures in this country that are not just sort of dispositional. They are situational. And there's a lot of people suffering. And I think they want to know what he's going to do about it.
Right. I mean, we can talk about the frequent use of the passive voice by Joe Biden in that speech about what caused our crisis, how we got here, who is dividing America. It was a lot of nebulous forces in our country who are doing these things, which is a callback to a lot of Obama-isms from his presidency. But in terms of the policy, I mean, there are a lot of things that progressives and specifically young people are waiting to hear from Joe Biden on within the next few weeks. Student loan cancellation is one thing. Chuck Schumer has supported a bill with Elizabeth Warren to cancel 50,000. Joe Biden wants to cancel 10,000. There's also, he has said that it's unclear whether he plans to do that or not. Yesterday, he announced, to the great joy of a lot of immigration rights advocates, his plan to introduce legislation to provide a pathway for relief from deportation for 11 million undocumented immigrants, and also a pathway to citizenship for those 11 million undocumented immigrants. That has been on the back burner since 2006. Right. No one has had relief from those deportations that have skyrocketed, specifically under President Obama. And then obviously the climate crisis. Just this past weekend, the Sunrise Movement held actions at Senator Schumer and Senator Durbin's homes, calling for action on climate to be a number one priority. Joe Biden says he intends to include significant climate investments in this multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure package, which is probably going to be announced in February or March. And there are a series of actions being held tomorrow. So to your point, where progressives perhaps sat on their hands when Obama was elected. That is not true this time around with the action that we've seen from progressive movements, with the actions happening all across the country tomorrow by the Sunrise Movement, and also the voices that members of the Squad and the Progressive Caucus have already raised since November on things like the COVID relief, things on what the Democrats are doing to hold Republicans accountable for the insurrection. That was just not the case in 2009. And so I am optimistic for the next 9 months, in part because I have to be, because if we can't get things done in the next 9 months, then I don't know what happens after that. We've sat around for 10 years waiting for unified control. So if we can't figure out how to deliver results for the American people, it's really I think a doomsday scenario for our democracy and for people in this country and across the globe.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing that I was struck by too. This Biden speech. Now he did, he ticked off. He said healthcare. He said climate change. Much of the speech was, it was both sort of like metaphorical in the sense that there was sort of like, well, it is true that as a nation we are dealing with a pandemic, and on some level, like the sort of the passive quality, like this pandemic came upon us. It wasn't a function of somebody, hitting a button or somebody, executing a policy and we have a pandemic. The extremity of this pandemic, I think, is a failure of policy. But everything else he referred to was as if we were fighting some outside enemy, and without a sort of acknowledgement that we're not just having a dispositional disagreement. There are people who are pursuing their agenda, and it's coming at the cost of the agenda of hundreds of millions of people, corporations, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, what is the plan from a progressive perspective on how to focus Joe Biden's, attention? Like, at one point, when do we start to, how do we break down? This is rhetoric that a lot of people are going to tune out of politics after today, and they're going to go, Joe Biden's a good guy. And if they hear like maybe Mitch McConnell is preventing Joe Biden from doing his plan, maybe that'll have some benefit for Democrats. But he also needs to actually make that pivot, right, at one point in practice.
Mm-hmm. Well, to your point, I mean, there's this weird part of American civic religion that somehow Abraham Lincoln was an extremely unifying figure who brought the country together in this very peaceful way to take on the slaveholding oligarchy in the South and move past our divisions magically. And Abraham Lincoln was one of the most divisive figures in American history. We had a Civil War, and Biden again and again refers to Abraham Lincoln as a unifying figure. But and Lincoln pursued a path of the abolition of slavery and the destruction of the slaveholding oligarchy in the South was, by all means, a controversial move at the time. And so it's this weird part of American civic religion that that things just happen out of our kind hearts and bringing the country together. When in actuality, there was a literal war that happened, and Lincoln was moved to fight that war against a pernicious force in our democracy that was rebelling against the country. In terms of,
let me just put even a finer point on that point, because we have done many interviews about Reconstruction, which follows. I just did an interview that I pre-taped yesterday about one of the massacres that followed through Reconstruction. I mean, there are literally just a massacre per state that took place through Reconstruction to usher in Jim Crow. It's quite clear to me, anyways, after interviewing a lot of historians, that this unity really never happened. I mean, it's conceivable, I think, on some level, that we came together when we fought World War I to some extent, and certain, maybe World War II to some extent. But really, like, there was no, in terms of Lincoln, I mean, obviously he was shot to death. But there was no real, this unity, like you say, it is an article of faith that really is highly elusive. And there's no evidence, I think, in American history that, at least in improving domestic situations, that the pursuit of unity brings us that.
Yeah. I mean, we could argue about, Lincoln also uses the language of unity to like achieve his goals. And so perhaps it's just rhetorical, but there is this weird, we obscure what actually happened. We don't, the story of what happens to Abraham Lincoln is never even mentioned.
Right.
But to answer your second question, I think there are several people on Biden's economic team who are genuine progressives. Bharat Ramamurthy, Ali Zaidi on the climate task force, people like Heather Bushey, Jared Bernstein. Their job is not to be people who deliver speeches. Their job is to make sure the COVID relief package is as bold as it can be, and can get through Congress. Their job is to work on that infrastructure package that is upcoming. And I do think that, it is night and day between what this administration is proposing versus what the Obama administration proposed.
Yeah.
I mean, the Obama administration was afraid, because of Rahm Emanuel and Larry Summers and Timothy Geithner, to use the T word, and the T word was trillion. And, that said, there are improvements that I believe progressives are going to push for on things related to the stimulus checks, things related to the amount of childcare subsidies that are going out in this relief package, things that are going on with the expansion of Medicare, perhaps. But it is, we should acknowledge the historic shift that has happened in the Democratic Party. And while there is much to push on, the inclusion of the $15 minimum wage in this package is a victory that progressives should celebrate. This is something that progressives were the ones who fought on this issue for years. From 2012 to 2016, it was a radical, crazy idea, so much so that Hillary Clinton wouldn't embrace it in the presidential primary. And so I do want to savor this moment today also, that there are victories that progressives have won. And I know that this thing tends to happen when progressives push and push and push for something. The Democratic establishment eventually claims it, and then we forget that it was our idea to begin with. But it's important to say that, we helped deliver those victories.
Yeah, and that shift in the Democratic Party, I would say, is a large result of the work that Justice Democrats have done in just primarying the right-wing Democrats and getting a lot of these progressives through, shifting the Overton window, which is an overused phrase. But I think the point about more things being possible with Biden than even with Obama because of the people surrounding him is true. And also, I think there's this perception that Biden is more conservative than Obama, which I guess is true based on the rhetoric that was used. I mean, Obama ran on more progressive rhetoric, but then again, surrounded himself by people like Summers and Rahm Emanuel. And Biden, Sam makes this point, and I think it's so well said. He likes to place himself at the center of the Democratic Party and then go from there. And the Democratic Party has shifted because of these progressive lawmakers and because they've changed what's possible. Can you talk about the role of some of the Justice Democrat candidates in pushing that conversation forward more specifically?
Well, I think one success point or one effect of the Justice Democrats' victories in the past two cycles, first with AOC and Ayanna Pressley, and then with Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, Marie Newman, and others, is that it's actually created space for the inclusion of those people in the Progressive Caucus, helped organize the Progressive Caucus this year to pass a reform package that will make them into a more cohesive, unified body in which, the chair of the Progressive Caucus, Pramila Jayapal, who is also Justice Democrat, has said she intends to use that as a leverage point to organize the bloc much more than it's ever been organized, to push for concessions from Nancy Pelosi. The inclusion of checks at all in Trump's stimulus deal that was passed before Biden took office was because of Bernie Sanders and Pramila Jayapal both pushing for some sort of checks to be included. That is a huge achievement of the effect of work of the Justice Democrats, of the Sunrise Movement, of the DSA. And I think we're going to see that continue into the administration on immigration, on childcare, on climate, on justice reform issues. And what has happened is that someone like Joe Biden or someone like Chuck Schumer will say, I represent the center point of the Democratic Party. That center has moved. If you can grab hold of that center and shift it, it can move a lot of things. The last time progressives were able to unseat a incumbent corporate-backed Democrat from the left in a primary and then for Congress was like Donna Edwards in 2006. So there was like a huge gap between 2006 and 2018. And so if you can show that your movement can actually deliver votes and unseat people, which is extremely hard to do because, I've spent the past 2 years doing that. It goes a long way, even if it's just a handful of seats. That
last point, I think folks really need to have that in the forefront of their mind. What Justice Democrats have been able to do in the course of 2 cycles is really stunning based upon what the experience in the 20 years prior to that was. And so let me ask you this. Justice Democrats wrote a memo along with the Sunrise Movement, along with the New Deal strategies entitled What to Do When Republicans Block Biden. I'm going to guess that the Republicans are going to try and block Biden. So what should Biden do, or what should we do?
So the memo basically outlines several points, which is basically that, yes, Republicans will likely not deliver the 10 votes needed to pass things that Joe Biden wants to pass. And so what should Joe Biden do? Well, the first thing is that he should not water his priorities down and then invite Mitt Romney and Susan Collins into the White House for these long meetings over the series of weeks and months. President Obama, in his memoirs, even admits that all the meetings he had with Olympia Snowe and Chuck Grassley were a huge waste of time, that the last meeting he has with Chuck Grassley, President Obama says to Grassley, what could I do to actually get you to support this bill? And Grassley admits nothing. And that was something that Obama thought was the right thing to do for optics reasons. His advisors told him to do that. I think it would be a mistake for Joe Biden to, one, water down his priorities, and two, waste precious time by courting these Republicans through these PR stunts that don't really, don't win any favors for Democrats. The second thing is just we are under the impression that reconciliation is an okay step, but ending the filibuster is much more effective to getting the gains that Democrats want. The issue there is that there are many things that Democrats and progressives want to see, particularly on democracy reform, on things like immigration, that could potentially face hurdles through reconciliation that are not tax and spending issues alone.
Voting rights,
the
Voting Rights Act, like you say, immigration, et cetera.
Campaign finance reform, all these things. Like I know our friend Bernie Sanders is very passionate about reconciliation. There are some things that can be done through reconciliation, but we should not let Biden off the hook on the filibuster, and we should not let Chuck Schumer off the hook on ending the filibuster. And so,
or President Joe Manchin, for that matter, right?
And there is precedent for someone like Harry Reid saying he was against going nuclear and then going nuclear on something. And so people, especially in the Trump era, people have flipped their position on a number of things. And I think this is a key civil rights struggle, a key democracy reform struggle to allow the majority, the multiracial majority that elected Joe Biden to govern without 20 senators who represent 25% of the population, many of whom aided and abetted the insurrection that took place, to have a say in what Democrats do. And so that is a huge fight over the next several, 100 days, is to really push on that message. And, we also need to hold our allies, some of our progressive allies, to that too.
And just lastly, is that what is this a fight? Are we going to, if we're in May, let's say, and none of this has happened, is there a window when this stuff needs to happen? Is there a certain amount of time where it's like, okay, Biden needs to show that there's obstruction, or there needs to be an argument that they're being obstructed? What is the timing of all this? Because we should also say, obviously, there's very strong, obviously, policy arguments for this, but there's also very strong political arguments for this. It seems like the Biden administration understands that if they can't get a bunch of stuff done in the first year, and they got to go whole hog. There's no pick and choose which, agenda we're going to do. And once we get it in, we can ride it out. Because 2022 could go really bad, or it could go okay. It seems to me. And so, and I feel like the Biden administration knows that. But what, like in your mind, Do you have a set number of days? We say 100 days because it's convenient, but do you have a set number of days? In fact, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, I just want you to answer that question, and then we'll wrap things up with that. Quick break here. So before the break, Waleed, I was asking you, what is your timeline? When do you, is there a certain amount of days out where you're like, "Oy, this is not going to happen," or this needs to happen within this certain period of time?
I mean, I think he has this 100 days to deliver his agenda. And if he's unable to deliver many parts of his agenda within that 100 days, I think he's not, even the goals that Biden is setting for himself, he's not going to be able to achieve. I do want to judge Joe Biden for who Joe Biden is. And if his strategy, which seems like he wants to present something to Republicans, he wants to, provoke them to denying something that's popular like COVID relief. He does need to figure out, we cannot let this go on for several months because, when the average, median voter or whoever in some of these swing states in 2022, a lot of them will feel, oh, it's politics as usual. Both sides are to blame. They can't get along. And that's not what's happening. So Joe Biden really needs to take control of that narrative and paint the picture that it's actually a small minority of the country, population wise, that is obstructing really popular things from happening. And so I think also he has, if going into 2022, it would be a historic achievement if Democrats are up in the opinion polls going into 2022. It rarely happens in our country's history that the party of the president is beating the opposition party going into the midterm. So unless you're doing something on the level of the New Deal or the Great Society, which is what he is supposed to do in the next 9 months, that is really hard to achieve. And so that is what he needs to do.
Yep, I think that's a very good point. And I think there's a limited a shelf life on the bad taste that the Republicans and Donald Trump has left in the mouths of Americans. And I think he needs to capitalize on that. Waleed Shahid, Justice Democrats, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Waleed.
Thank you. Appreciate all your work.
Folks, Emma, so that's it. We have a new president. It's gonna be a different day tomorrow.
Well, we keep the pressure on. That's what we do.
Exactly, and I think this is really important for folks who pay attention to politics. I think the entire country has taken I shouldn't say the entire country. There's a lot of people who thought that Q was real and that Donald Trump was going to roll up everybody on that stage. But
didn't happen.
For a significant portion of the country, a lot of people are taking a deep breath. Well-deserved. You should. But we need to keep the pressure on because if Donald Trump can follow Barack Obama, who knows can follow Joe Biden unless Joe Biden makes it really clear what the Democratic Party can do for you as opposed to the Republicans. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. See you then. And for those of you sticking around, in the fun half today, we're going to take a lot of phone calls, going to allow people to express their joy and saying goodbye to Donald Trump, express their hopes with Joe Biden.
What's your feeling right now? If you could encapsulate how you feel currently, because I'm getting texts from my family about how they're crying with joy. I don't feel that.
I mean, look, I was saying this before, and I've said this a million times before on this program. I remember where I was when Bill Clinton was elected. It wasn't the inauguration, but it was the night of the election. And the relief that the Reagan era had ended was massive. And then people went to sleep. When Barack Obama was elected, the sense of elation and hope and expectation was overwhelming, even though I was aware at that time about they had shut down outside organizations and they were picking Rahm Emanuel. I mean, I remember the And I think during that brief period, I'm not quite sure. No, I think we were doing Break Room Live, Marin and I think by then, but just then. And I think I remember thinking when they appointed, when it was clear that Rahm Emanuel was going to be the chief of staff, I remember trying to having to really try and convince myself oh, well, okay, he's the type of guy you want on your side.
Yeah, like he's a bulldog, but he'll fight for the right position. I mean, those first 2 years were just convincing oneself that the rhetoric was going to match the campaign.
I will say that it was the summer of 2009. I remember it quite clearly. I was guesting on the Campbell Brown show on CNN. I don't know why I remember who she was. And I remember I was saying that progressives were upset, and this is a real problem with the cram down in the bankruptcy bill. And I remember her playing like a Bill Maher clip saying, you're an idiot or something to people who were criticizing Obama at that time. And that's when it took 8 or 9 months. And I've been saying, I think since the beginning of this campaign, Joe Biden's not going to get that type of honeymoon. Now,
no,
he also,
well, he doesn't have that charisma to ride, to ride off of. And it's a different time. It's just a different time.
It's a different time. And there's it's also, Barack Obama represented at least symbolically, a massive shift in what this country would allow on some level.
Oh, I remember. I mean, that I was young, but I remember that feeling when, he was inaugurated. It's very different than what I feel right now.
And it was very exciting. It was very exciting.
Yes.
And,
I was in the dorm and we were making fun of the guy who voted for McCain and Palin. And it was a pretty nice feeling.
Lots of dunking on Sarah Palin, lots of, superiority of being on the left, being on the smart side. I feel like that was so much of that era of liberalism, like those calendars that had Bushisms on it. I mean, that was what there was a lot of that. I'm
all in favor of that type of mockery. I have to say, I'm all in favor of that type of mockery and smugness. However, it has to come. I mean, I think people know that about
but the Trump era, like mockery, there's something that's off about it. It didn't hit in the way that the Bush mockery did.
Well, because it was just like, I mean, what, like, did you really need to add anything to it? Right. I mean, the guy was,
that's the point. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But I think, look, I think the country or elements of the country have moved significantly to the left. I think we see it reflected in elected Democrats in the sense that, Waleed was right. Like Donna Edwards was the last sort of incumbent challenge that I remember. And, she's progressive, but she wasn't
AOC.
And she was alone. I mean, there was no movement behind it. It was just like a one-off. Like Joe Lieberman was challenged and was knocked off, at least in the primary, by Ned Lamont. And Ned Lamont is just a sort of, typical, Democrat.
Well, Lieberman was just that bad. I mean, that's how much it shifted.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yes. And Lieberman, Lieberman was unique insofar he was a blue state Democrat who was,
he makes Manchin look like, Elizabeth Warren.
Well, I mean, I'm
that's too far, but
I don't know exactly. I mean, it was a different game. Manchin has been, relatively Manchin projects who he is. Joe Lieberman, the whole thing with Joe Lieberman was he's with us on everything but the war. But it turned out he was with us on nothing, including the war. But I just think that there's two dynamics going on. One is there's this massive pandemic, and I think that is going to influence Joe Biden to go big because he knows he has to go big, and he has the rhetorical cover of the pandemic, which I think most people want to see resolved, and to put other things in it, to mix other things into that bill as an addressing of our society, because the issue of the pandemic is not just how do we stop this pandemic. It is laid bare weaknesses that we have within our society. And it is these type of crises that show you, earthquake comes and you find out which buildings have been built to code and which haven't. And on some level, we're starting to realize like we have major aspects of our society. And I think, on the left, I think we've recognized this, but I'm saying broader parts of the country realize that we have major aspects of the infrastructure, the social and physical infrastructure of our society that are woefully not up to code, essentially, and we need to enhance those. And if he can make that argument, if he needs to do the, this is a trust but verify type of situation. In fact, it's not even necessarily full trust. The unity talk, if it is being deployed in the same way that Waleed made the point that Lincoln did, all well and good. But if it's something that Joe Biden believes is attainable, I despair a little bit, but I have a feeling at least the people around him realize that. So, all right, well, let's take a break. We're going to talk more about this in the next in the fun half, folks. Just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. Also, check out our merch, shop.majorityreportradio.com. We got now beanies. We got long sleeve T-shirts. We got. I
wore that "Left is Best" T-shirt to bed last night.
Oh, you
very
did?
much enjoyed it. Yeah, I mean, I kind of stole it, but I thought I didn't mean to steal it. I really didn't. I just I brought it home and then I put it in the wash, and I was like, I guess this is mine now.
That sounds like you stole it.
Commissary privileges review board coming.
It's not stealing if you wash it first.
That's right.
Right.
That's sort of the classic, like, oh, hey, do you want this ice cream cone? Oh, I'm sorry. I licked it all. Well, but you can feel free.
Okay. I thought it was other laundry. So I washed it and I was like, oh, geez, this was the shirt that Sam had me, show off on the show. And
what is other laundry?
Like I put it with colors, like it was in my bag. I just was like, I had a sweatshirt in there. I wasn't thinking. And I feel guilt when
Emma, this feels like it's practiced.
It's
like,
not.
Did you stand in front of a mirror and practice this whole thing? Like, I know, I had it with the other laundry.
Oh, whoops. Oops, I'm just collecting all of the laundry right now, including this merchandise.
I feel guilt when I wear it, and I needed to assuage.
You also happened to wash the carpenter pencils too, didn't you? By
yes,
mistake.
and
that
all
now,
the
obviously,
beanies.
We can't. Well, nevertheless, folks, there you go. I mean, it. You can purchase it, or if you can figure out a clever way like Emma, you can steal it.
You can steal it.
You can steal the merch over at shop.majorityreportradio.com. Also, don't forget, Nomiki's show today. You can find it at youtube.com/The Nomiki Show. And I don't know who's on today, but I imagine they're going to be talking about the inauguration and about the end of the Trump administration. Also, check out the Antifada. They're doing Twitch streams like 3 nights a week now, twitch.tv/the Antifada. Matt, what's happening in the Matt Leck media universe?
Thursday night at 8 Eastern, Left Reckoning. We're going to have Milton Alamati on to talk about Yoweri Museveni in Uganda. He did what Trump tried to do. He did looks like a self-coup. There was what appears to be another fraudulent election in Uganda. And then he surrounded the election politicians' compound with the military. So we have Milton Alamati to inform us about that tomorrow night. Left Reckoning YouTube channel, patreon.com/Left Reckoning.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, head into the fun half, 646-257-3920. We're going to take your phone calls. I mean, as of yet, I have not heard any reports of any type of violence at state capitals around the country. That's great. I have to concede that I thought there was a decent chance that we would see something like that. But
I mean, the aftershock of what happened could just be like, all right, everybody stand, instead of uprising, it's the stand back and stand by kind of deal. I don't know.
It's possible. I mean, look, this stuff has never gone away. It's never going to go away. I mean, we had Timothy McVeigh. We had those guys from Nevada who took over in Oregon. I mean, this is a feature of the United States. But as of today, so far, still a peaceful day.
And I got to say, Trump, just real quick, Trump not having his social media, I wonder, it seems like it's taken a lot of the air out of the balloon.
Interesting theory. Possible. We're going to take a quick break. We'll talk more about that when we return. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
You know, I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous. You're a little bit upset. You're riled up.
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude. You want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
Some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-457. 2, 38, 56, 27. 1/2. 5 eighths. 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy.
Dance, dance, dance.
Ooh.
I had my first post-coital scene with a woman. I'm hoping to add more moves to my repertoire. All I have is the dip and the swirl.
Fine, we can double dip.
Yes, this is a perfect moment.
No.
Wait, what?
You make under $1 million a year. You're scum. You're not paying.
Excuse me? Fuck you, you fucking liberal elite. I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person.
All right, gonna take a quick break. I want to take a moment to talk to some of the libertarians out there. Take whatever vehicle you want to drive to the library. What you're talking about is jibber jabber.
Classic. I'm feeling more chill already.
Good. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Andy. You guys ready to do some evil?
Hitler was such an idiot.
That guy might be a Nazi.
Agree.
No.
Death to America.
You.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's weird. No way. Unbelievable. This guy's got a really good hook. Throw our hands up.
Ooh.
Wow.
But Sam, I gotta get off.
No worries. Let's. I want to just flesh this out a little bit. I mean, look, it's a free speech issue. If you don't like me,
Hey! Shut up!
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
Okay, we're back. Let's go right to the phone, shall we? Calling from an 818 area code. Who's this? Where are we calling from?
Hey, Sam. How's your no Trump day going?
Is this Dave in Jamaica?
Yeah, this is Dave.
Dave,
Hey, Dave.
how are you? It's going pretty good. I feel like his absence has not quite sort of seeped in yet.
His lack of Twitter meltdowns.
I'm sure.
You just
right,
you don't get to see him melt down in real time, which I think kind of takes away from the Schadenfreude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wish Twitter had suspended him. Well, maybe if they were gonna, I wish they suspended him today or something like that.
I understand what you're saying. I understand that. I mean, you don't want to articulate that perspective, but it would have been nice to see
I just
him
did
slip
articulate
out.
it.
No, I'm not saying you don't want to. Like, one is hesitant to express, like, I would love to see him writhing around a little bit right now.
Yeah. Like, it's not like we can be joyous that Bernie is, the president. That's not where we're going to get our joy from. It would be from Trump's pain.
That's correct. That's correct. But go ahead, Dave.
I guess from my end of it, at least, I'm happy he's gone, but I'm not exactly cartwheeling either, because as I was listening to Biden's speech, that dread that I have with like the boomer generation, where they're kind of stuck to this idea of unity. Just see, the empty platitude stuff. I'm worried if he's going to kind of repeat the same mistakes of the Obama era, where he's so desperately trying to, Republicans are people too, type of thing.
Yeah.
And waste a lot of time with that. And that's what my gut's kind of telling me as well.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think it's something about that generation where their love of institutions seems to, like, it's almost cultish in a way.
If you saw, there was a CNN contributor who talked about how we might get to it, but how the lights along the Lincoln Memorial were extensions of Biden's arms holding America in an embrace, basically.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad I didn't hear that. I think I lost my mind.
Yeah.
Here's the difference. I mean, and again, like, I should qualify this with, here's a potential difference, is that when Obama said these things, I think there was just a lot more people who were like, yes. I think there's still a lot of people who are saying yes to this now, but I know that there is there's just more, I think, side eye at this, and just sort of a little bit more folks are saying like, we'll give that a couple of weeks. And, there's also, let's be honest. I mean, we have now the entire Obama administration to see. Waleed pointed out that even in his memoir, Obama said, like, we got snookered. And so I can understand the theory that we need to go out there and talk about unity. The only thing that makes me a little bit concerned that you might be right, Dave, is that when he said, I know there's people out there who think that's crazy, man. Or I can't remember exactly what he said, but like the fact that he acknowledged that some people are a little bit jaded when they hear that makes me a little bit concerned that he means it, as opposed to just deploying it as a rhetorical tool.
Well, since I've grown, I'm atheist now, but since I grew up Catholic, I kind of know that mindset, which kind of unnerves me a little bit. I bet. But also, I do see the pressure. Like, the media is not 100% the same, because even on CNN, you see people kind of rolling their eyes to the whole unity, just 2 words type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is hope there. But I don't know how many people in that, how effective that will get to Biden.
Well, I think the
Mhm.
bottom line is, Dave, and I will sign off with this, is that I think the plan of waiting for Biden to do this stuff is not one that we should invest much into. In fact, none. It should be, and that's frankly, that's why I wanted Waleed on today. When I was like contemplating, like, is it too soon? Like literally seconds after he's been inaugurated to say, okay, man, now we're going to start to pressure you. And it's not. And I think that is what I wanted to communicate by having him on there, was that I'm happy Donald Trump is gone. Joe Biden seems like a very nice man. That's great. Now it's time for us to pressure him, so that if there is a moment where he is, like contemplating Mitch McConnell and I are going to have a drink after he obstructs my justices or whatever it is. No, that's not happening. Not this time. And I think that's the important sentiment to have is, let's not have to worry about trusting whether Biden is just deploying this rhetorically or not. Let's just get to it. Appreciate the call, Dave.
I'll have a parting message before I go. I guess I would say the best has come until Reagan calls. So later, guys.
Fair enough. Appreciate
the best
it.
is yet to come.
The best is yet
to
come.
Call.
Oh, to call. Right. Oh, yeah. Nice. Speaking of which, this is one of the things I thought was going to go down today because I get all my news from the guy who makes my pillows. Was that there was some really, we watched the Biden inauguration, right?
Right.
Yeah. Wrong. Play it. Play this clip from Mike Lindell.
I get this question asked 100 times a day. I still think there's a 2 to 3% chance Donald J. Trump remains in that White House past Wednesday for whatever reason happens and whatever God has planned for this great country and this great president. That's just my personal thoughts. I got to go.
3% chance.
Yeah. And I want everyone out there to keep the prayers up and for our president. But I will say this: 100%, the truth will be revealed. And when it is, we don't know what happens then. So, I don't want everyone out there being so depressed that, okay, what if nothing gets done? And this guy, that's not that inauguration then would be a null and void. I mean, it's not even real when it was done under suspicion. But then when this is revealed, and it will be, I give everybody my promise, it will be. We didn't come all this way, and God didn't do, fighting evil to lose. This is going to be amazing.
These people are lunatics. I mean, here's the thing. Mike Lindell, he believes it. Like there's no, this dude believes it. And I don't know what he thinks is going to happen, but I would also say that I would be a little bit skeptical about his 100% guarantee on maybe his pillows at this point. I'd be a little bit skeptical.
I mean, I can't get over how every time he does a media hit, they have to show not the MyPillow logo, right? Or not like an ad of the product, but like him, this is a tissue box, like embracing the pillow. Like, why does that have to be right there? We already see the guy's face. We don't need a double dose.
I guess maybe you could feel a little skeptical about his intentions if it's always a function of advertising, but I can't tell if it's like, he really seems to believe it. I can't tell if it's like part of the grift that like, we're going to have the MyPillow logo here.
It's not.
Or if the MyPillow picture is a way of establishing his bona fides. Like, this isn't just some random dude. This is the guy who hugs his pillow that you've seen the pictures of.
Yeah, I mean, nobody even knows his name. They know him as the MyPillow guy. I think he can cool it on the branding.
But I think maybe that's the point. The brand, he's not there trying to sell the pillows. The MyPillows, they're trying to sell him.
Right, that gives him credibility.
Exactly. Like a lot of lunatics could come on here and tell you that the inauguration is null and void and that within moments, Joe Biden's going to be arrested by a secret agent or, whatever is going to come. A lot of crazy people could tell you that, but I'm not crazy. Here's proof. Picture of me hugging a pillow.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Also, ladies, it's my softer side.
There, exactly. You trust me with your sleep. Now trust me with your conspiracy theory. Let's look at while we're on this, just to get a sense. Here is some Telegram. QAnon has jumped onto Telegram,
Right.
And they are trying to work out, they're trying to explain how everything they've kept predicting has not happened yet. And apparently Matt tells me that the QAnon podcast, is that right? Matt, who are the guys that
QAnon Anonymous have more or less predicted where at least part of Q was going to go.
Wait, it's QAnon Anonymous?
Yeah, that's the podcast.
Yeah, they critique. I guess.
It's a watchdog or whatever.
They're watchdog of
They're
QAnon.
very funny.
Okay,
or
I'm
a,
sorry.
Or a narrator of what. And here it is. Let's see. They predicted something like this would happen, apparently. And can you pull it up a little bit more so we can read it a little bit closer here? Even a little bit more would be great. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. So in my opinion, there's 5 plausible outcomes. What do you think? Poll closes when I wake up in the morning. God bless America and pray. This is so invested with Christianity. Wow. It's fascinating to me. 1, Biden's arrested before he can be sworn in or during his swearing in. That did not happen. I'm sorry to say.
21%, is that a plurality?
Yeah, 21%. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Biden admits to the world on stage he's cheated and he cannot be POTUS. Riots begin to happen. That was 6%.
That was what I had.
We avoided that.
Oh no, we got another more popular option.
19% said something happens that will delay the swearing-in ceremony. Riots begin to happen, of course. And then 33%, this seems to be the biggest number. Biden is sworn in as POTUS. The military and Trump have a plan in the coming near future. And 21% says nothing happens. Biden is POTUS. So number 4 seems to be the one that everybody thinks is happening. And of course, that's the one that is, we still cannot disprove. We could see.
That's smart.
That is smart.
I mean, aren't they still, well, there they are. They're counting the number of flags behind Trump, because there are 17 flags behind Donald Trump, and Q is the 17th letter in the alphabet. There you go.
Bingo. And also one of the things that they were contemplating, right, Matt, was that Biden's in on it.
Yeah, there's the QAnon Anonymous guys basically said, of course, a lot of this is aligned with GOP as a partisan sort of thing, but there's a whole bunch of like just people so far gone that they'll follow wherever, and they'll need to incorporate this somehow, and they'll just go with Biden as part of the plan. He's been in on it the whole time, actually, and Trump wanted to pass it off to him. And this is how they're really going to catch people by surprise.
Well, it would be nice for Biden to kind of win over that constituency of Q people then, if Biden is part of rooting out the pedophiles. I mean, something he can add to his resume.
Sleeper Joe.
Something just occurred to me. Here is the outlining of this, and I'll tell you why in a second, why I think there's some legitimacy to this. Can you pop it up? Can you make it a little bit bigger so I can read a little more? Can you pop it up? There we go. So here it is. Slide over. Yeah. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry. You got to slide it over just a little bit more. I can't quite. Okay. I'm happy to be wrong. But the more I think about it, I think it could be possible that it's Biden who pulls the trigger. Hunter, here's some reasons why. Hunter intentionally left the laptop. Why? So stupid. Or was it Sleepy Joe, or is it
Sleeper Joe? God, Trump knew.
We didn't arrest either of them despite the evidence. Even Biden election officials were arrested and charged with fraud, but Biden wasn't. Biden isn't in the DJT. Oh, wait. Yeah. RT of them all. And Jared Q asked us to add Brennan, doesn't ask us to add Biden. Why? The letter left includes instructions on what to do next. As Biden, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on and on. And there's speculation that Biden is in on it, and we have to just trust in Biden. Now, here's the thing I'll say, which makes me maybe take a second look at this theory about Biden. It's, Emma, can you tell me about the last time in modern history when a outgoing president did not attend the inauguration, or I should say, did not shake hands and meet with the incoming president?
I think this is the first time in modern history.
Yeah, it's odd that they can't be in the same place at the same time, isn't it, Emma?
Well, I mean, that's why they were trying to push for virtual debates. And the one time they did it,
one of them probably pre-recorded it.
Makes sense, yeah.
Trump playing Biden probably pre-recorded that whole thing. I mean, it's weird
That's why they're interrupting each other so much.
And you know that liberal Hollywood found the perfect actor to play Joe Biden.
Well, I mean, why was it that Donald Trump wasn't in politics all those years that Joe Biden was? Because it would have been impossible for them both to be in the Senate chamber at the same time. So Biden, meanwhile, just going back and forth.
Yeah.
He plays he does The Apprentice, and then he goes back and he's the politician, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
That type of thing, and probably also explains why Obama went after Trump so much. It was a way to get 5 Obama terms.
This theory, I mean,
the first 2 were Obama. Yeah. The next one supposedly Trump, but really Biden, who obviously Obama was pulling the strings on. And then Biden takes off the shell of Trump because it's worn out, and then becomes Biden. And then Obama gets another 2. It's really all just Obama pulling the strings, gets 5.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the only plausible explanation, but probably Soros pulling Obama's strings, and then Obama pulls those strings. And then question, though.
I mean, have you ever seen Soros and Obama in the same place?
No, never. Question, though, because I'm legitimately asking you, how do these Q people justify all those videos they circulated of Biden hugging all those young kids? Wasn't that a part of the
cover?
Oh, right.
Cover. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
You gotta throw them off the scent. I mean,
yeah, of course.
Not every Q person is on this beat. We have another Ben Collins posted a Reddit thread from recently. It's over and nothing makes sense. Absolutely nothing. None of what anybody said or sung sounded like typical liberal shit. I don't know what that means. Biden was just sworn in, but this was also just leak. Oaths taking place. There's no plan. Just finished his oath of falsehood. Q was a LARP the entire fucking time. Everyone got strung along and tricked. Now that we fully realize it, it is okay to admit it. Do not go out there with cold hearts and turn away from your pain. Look inward and accept the truth. I'm sorry. Look, anybody who was down this path, if you found this video, welcome to the light. You've been fooled by a massive industrial tech propaganda apparatus, and you've seen it for what it is, and now you've found the actual truth. So welcome.
Yeah, I mean, hang in there. I mean, hang in there. Let's take a call. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Josh, is this Josh? 847?
Me. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Josh. Josh in Chicago. What's going on?
Well, I celebrated the last day of Donald Trump's presidency by listening to your the best of the Gorka impressions. I will have to admit that I will miss your daily Gorka impressions.
Oh, all right. Well, my daily Gorka impressions?
Oh, you think it's over for me, Josh?
Oh, Josh, my boy.
Have a little faith, okay?
Don't count your chickens.
In terror.
Don't.
Terror study.
My father is not a socialist. Go ahead.
No, I thought there was a very astute point made the other day where I think my theory is this. I mean, obviously, I'm not excited about Biden, but I think because of this, pandemic, right? I think Biden's going to have to be a lot more active than he envisioned his presidency when he announced. I think he kind of just thought he was a placeholder presidency.
Yep.
And I think there was a point made the other day where it's like, if we have high expectations, it becomes easier for us to hold him accountable. And I think, I don't want to say I'm optimistic that we're going to get the stuff we need, Medicare for all, but I think just because of the moment we're in, we have an opportunity to kind of put real pressure and actually at least get some structural change, because I think I just think this is a much different, just due to the pandemic, this is a much different presidency than I think he envisioned himself for. I don't know. Am I crazy on this or no?
No, first of all, as a general rule, I think optimism of will and pessimism of intellect is a good MO. But I think that, like, look, he's facing a crisis. I think there is a broad understanding of crisis is an opportunity. And, there is the idea that he can go up there and actually talk about, be in the passive voice about unity relative to the pandemic. You can do, you know what I mean? Like, it's to deal with the financial crisis. I'm just comparing it to Obama, because a lot of these people are, went through that same experience. A lot of the people are from that administration. And the reality is that the financial crisis was brought about by decisions. Every bit of it was brought about by decisions by policymakers, by bankers, essentially. Greenspan and Rubin and I guess Congress, and I mean you can track all of these decisions to what it ultimately led. With the pandemic, I think even with a proper response, we could still have hundreds of thousands of people dead. And so he can get up there and he can say, we need to unite to fight this outside thing. And that in and of itself, absent the fact that I think the country has moved to the left, I think there's more power. I don't want to overstate it, but there's more power, at least, from a progressive perspective. There's also the experience of the Obama administration, and both folks like us and folks like them experienced it. And it's much harder to maintain sort of like the myths that drove that administration, whether they did this, they deployed those myths as a cover or because they believed it. And the fact that you have this unifying sort of element, the pandemic, gives him an opportunity. I think it's right for you to be optimistic, because it also means that engaging in this fight is potentially worthwhile.
Yep. Yeah. And I think too, it also, I just think I go back to, FDR didn't enter in as someone who was maybe the most progressive, circumstances forced that. And I just think, again, it's not what I'm thinking is ideal, but I just think there's a maturity that the movement has that we didn't have under Obama. Quite frankly, we didn't even have under.
Didn't exist.
We weren't going to get anything done under Trump.
Didn't exist under Obama.
It didn't exist, right?
Yeah, and I would say it's not just circumstance with FDR, right? It's people. It's people pushing him, and so one of the upsides of this is that the mechanism for pushing Biden also pays benefits in and of itself, right? Because the way you push Biden is you push progressives, you try and get them to enhance their power, you provide street heat and organizing that ultimately enhances their power within our government, and you're building outside organizations that are going to hopefully exist beyond Biden and beyond the decisions he does or does not make. So the effort you put in building organizations and supporting organizations and organizing, broadly speaking, in developing networks of connections amongst people, and sharing your realities with people in the process of also pushing, it can create near-term benefits and creating long-term benefits. And that's, you need to have some measure of hope to do that. And that's the thing that I think is encouraging. I mean, this is why, frankly, why to me, Hillary Clinton was a better foil than Donald Trump. I mean, aside from what, Hillary Clinton would do versus what Trump would do, I'm talking about from the perspective of, people of the left having a Democrat in the presidency, particularly with the awareness that exists today that didn't exist in 2008, it seems to me, is a good foil, because the expectations can be high and reasonable being high, right? Like, I mean, it would have been unreasonable to think like Donald Trump is going to give us Medicare for all. I don't think Joe Biden's going to give us Medicare for all, but Joe Biden could do things that get us closer to Medicare for all. Donald Trump is not going to do that. And so you can have these higher expectations of Biden, and when he doesn't meet them, it provides fuel to grow and build the left and to build some power. So.
100%. Anyways, thanks for helping keeping me sane during these last 4 years.
Well, I would probably want to see I would want to see some evidence of that too.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Josh. Let's read some IMs, shall we, Emma?
We shall. I went with that voice. I don't really know. It's a weird
It's
day.
just one of those days. It's one of those days. Emma, did you get a chance to watch the Showtime documentary on the Reagans yet? The duality of the last 4 years is insane.
No, I don't have a Showtime subscription, and I'm trying to access I'm trying to use someone's password, and it's not working.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see a pattern.
With their permission, it's just they also have Verizon, and I have Verizon Wi-Fi, and Verizon's like, nah, we know you don't have a Showtime subscription, so that's the issue.
Wow. I know the subscription was just sitting in the laundry. I recommend to all among the Majority Report Nation to watch the 2017 Trump inaugural episode. Sam and Michael's dueling Bane impersonations alone make it worthwhile. But Sam, you never used the Connor the Fire starting 11-year-old drop again. That youngster appears at the 2:15. I'm going to have to check that out. That's from Christo. I gotta check out what that means. I don't remember.
Bane impressions were a nightmare. Trying to ride the mixer to make sure it wasn't peaking. I
remember the Bane impressions, but I don't remember what we said. But I was really into the Bane impressions at that time.
I mean, yeah, it was what, you cupped your hand around the mic like that?
I can't remember.
Pretty good.
Sam Seder, keto cereal salesman. To celebrate the birth of my first child, I just purchased myself the dad hat on the Majority Report store. I plan to yell at my son by saying, pause it. There you go. Oh my God, Saul. It's because they I don't know if it's because I say it to him, like, pause it. I want to talk to you right now. Like, cause he's on the, he's on
right,
TV or the iPad. Cause he's always watching, that's like, as a kid, my parents would never have, what am I going to pause? There's nothing to pause.
Yeah.
My cassette deck. But with Saul. And so he says pause it all the time now too. Mason Curtis. I don't know if you all have read Trump's list of pardons and commutations, but I read about half the list last night. Although some descriptions lacked information on the original crime, about 3 to 5 that I read included nonviolent drug offenders. Regardless of the GOP's hard stance on drugs, Trump will not likely receive ridicule for this decision. He may even receive praise. Still left wondering, why do these individuals need to be incarcerated in the first place? No, I agree with that. there's no doubt in my mind.
Well, I'll just add that the Koch brothers and other Republican groups are encouraging prison reform. So, like, it's not as partisan as you may think.
Yep. There's definitely opportunities there on the right. That is one of the few places. Left calm Pelosi. Drone strikes half price for Biden's inauguration. Get your war crimes now. Trump built Viet Cong tunnels like Rambo around the White House and will reveal himself when needed. Militant apathy. You can put North Alabama white sauce on a shoe and it will still taste good. I'm not sure I understand that.
It's a barbecue sauce that they have in Alabama.
Oh, wow. Okay. Bottom structure.
Good.
For a bit of levity, I just realized buggy whipping like he's the boss is not a dance move, as I always thought. I'm not 100% sure I know exactly what that means, but I think I get it. Rabbit from Boston. Solidarity to Teamsters Joint Council 16 after police raided their picket line, Local 202. Well, let's look into that. Matthew from Minneapolis. We now know, of course, that MAGA and MAGA so-called news will be reporting on the crowd size of Biden's inauguration, post-insurrection and COVID. The military presence and lack of crowd will be used to point to the real steal of this election. I can hear the voice of Sean Spicer ringing through the crisp winter air. Happy Inauguration Day, MR crew. And Matty Moron, Biden to recognize Guaido. I'm going to lose my mind over the next 4 years. Is that right? No.
Yeah. Biden yesterday, he and Blinken said that they were recognizing Guaido as the legitimate leader of Venezuela.
Didn't they throw in the towel? Didn't like all?
He didn't even run in the last 2 cycles, was it?
Yeah, but that's because they were illegitimate elections. Come on.
What are they going to recognize?
It doesn't matter. Okay, fine.
No, I'm kidding. I'm being specific.
No, I know, but like, say that's their view. You don't get to just appoint the opposition party's leader as the leader of the country. That's just they jumped 400 steps.
But hasn't Guaido already basically stood down at this point? Didn't like all of his shadow?
Trump also added more sanctions to Venezuela just yesterday. So
and then Blinken goes in the article about the recognition of Guaido. We're going to do more targeted sanctions, and then also relief for them, humanitarian relief, which is obviously targeted in its own right. Ridiculous.
Yeah, put Sam Power on it.
Yeah, right.
A Miami Herald headline 7 days ago. Elliot Abrams says Biden will push Maduro to hold elections. So there we go.
I mean, we talk about some things that never change.
But I don't know. Yeah, that's nuts.
Right?
That's
nuts. I mean, does Biden have a
2 plan of Biden's administration, right? Is bringing America back on the global stage, like being leaders globally again, I believe.
Yeah. Well, you know what makes it hard to negotiate with countries? Recognizing somebody who isn't the leader of the country as the leader of the country might make it hard to have diplomatic relations with Venezuela, but that's not obviously what they're interested in.
I've floated it to France. Maybe I should be president. See if they will bite on that. It'd be good for the show. I feel like.
I don't know if you're Macron's kind of guy, Sam.
Probably not, but I mean, it's worth a shot.
What is Macron's kind of guy?
Calling from a 917 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Rothschild.
This me?
Yeah, 917. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Sorry, is this me?
Yes, it is you.
Oh, hi. This is Jacob from Long Island.
Jacob from Long Island. That's why, Jacob, if you think it's you, you say it's Jacob from Long Island. And if I respond, Jacob from Long Island, then you know it's you.
All right. Good to know for next time you pick up my call. I've been a long-time listener. First time actually getting in touch. So really honored on this unprecedented day, I guess we'll call it.
Where from Long Island are you? You can be general. North Shore, Middle, South Shore?
Oh, I'm South Shore, about 15 minutes outside JFK.
Nice. Okay, I can ballpark it.
Yeah. So, Yeah, so I just graduated college about a month ago, and so I can't help but sort of frame, the problems that like we see in our country and sort of the idea of what one needs to get done in a semester. And the sort of term paper that I think really looms large, the one that's really due at the end, it's a giant project, and that sort of gets pushed aside with everything else, I really think is climate change. And, the science is really pointing that this decade needs to be pivotal, like absolutely pivotal in tackling climate change. And really seeing the U.S. take a lead on this. We've taken a back seat in this fight. We're seeing a lot of action out of China. I know there was recently an article, though, about how China was forcefully employing, I guess is not really the word, but, forcefully employing the Uyghur population to actually fabricate a lot of the solar cells. But I think the U.S. really needs to be the moral and really technological leader moving forward. I want to recommend a book. It's 2 years old, but I'm pretty sure you didn't have them on. They make an interesting case for nuclear energy, which I know is very controversial. But it's called A Bright Future by Goldstein and Kvist, which is Kvist. They have a lot of interesting things to say. It's a short read. And I think they'd be an interesting duo to talk to. And one thing that I actually had a question about, I was watching Joy Reid last week, and she was sort of talking how the Tea Party sort of was the appetizer and led to what we saw at the Capitol and this movement we see now. And really the Tea Party was born out of, it was very AstroTurf. It was really funded by big money interests with more just, who are more just conservatively, economically focused. So I'm curious as to how, that big donor base, the Scapes, the Kochs of the world and of the U.S., how they see this more conspiratorially, leaning movement now, which seems sort of a little more grassroots. I know, or not grassroots. How you call it? Grassroots. They seem more grassroots.
Well, but
although I know that all these conspiracy, websites are definitely also, just out to make a quick buck.
Okay. But the difference is, frankly, this is just a different name, right? I mean, there may be a little bit more conspiracy that's going on, but I think the differences between the Tea Party and Q are who was in control of the government. And so I think we're going to get another iteration. It is going to have variances and strains of Q under a Biden administration, but it's basically going to be the Tea Party. It's just going to be a different name. These people have always existed in the Republican Party. And I think historically, if you go back through our history, when there is there is any type of progress that is made in any type of realm in terms of for Black people in this country, for the most part, there is a pushback by segments of white people. Not all Black people, not all white people, right? I mean, that's just that's the case. But I mean, historically speaking, I think Barack Obama, it was symbolic in many respects, but it also has some very sort of tangible implications, particularly for Black people, but also white people. When we elected a Black president, I think it drove a certain percentage of those people completely nuts. And it brought about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump sort of like nurtured that and brought it out. But I mean, how do they deal with the fact that Republicans have the power? So where's the oppression coming from? Like, so much of the conservative movement is about aggrievement. And so creating this fictional fight that is existing in parallel to our universe that's not real, was necessary to maintain their engagement. But now they're actually not going to have any power, or at least a limited amount of power. And so we will see a new iteration of what was the moral majority, then was the Tea Party, and then was, Q or whatever, the Trumpista. There'll be another one, and they'll just have it'll have a different name. It'll be in a slightly different form. It will receive the same amount of funding. Where did that money go during the Trump administration? It went to, right-wing media and just because these people are billionaires doesn't mean that they necessarily have like a coherent or cogent, philosophy. I mean, a lot of these guys are nuts as well. And so the money's going to pour in. Your guess is as good as mine as to what form it's going to take. But I can assure you, if you call back into this program in a year, I'm not saying you should call back in the interim too, but if you call back in a year, I think I'll be able to tell you the blankety blank is the new Tea Party, is the new QAnon, is the new moral majority, whatever. And if you look at the demographics of it, it's going to look a lot like the Tea Party, and it's going to look a lot like, Trumpistas, and it's going to look a lot like the moral majority. It's going to be white people. It's going to be more men than women. It's going to be self-identified Christian evangelicals. Hopefully it'll be a little bit smaller than it is now. And that's basically going to be it. And the real question is, ultimately, in terms of getting real change, addressing the things that you mentioned, is really going to be a function of whether Joe Biden goes all in and can inspire people to actually feel and see real change, and that we're moving in a certain direction. And that's really what it's going to come down to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, hey, Bernie was the guy, hopefully they could find someone for 2024, 2028 who can really take with his agenda to run for national office. Thanks for taking my call. Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Sam. Just wanted to say, keep up your work in destroying Ben Shapiro, because from one religious Jew here, that guy is absolutely toxic and shameful. So thanks much. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Come the Pope of the Jews, Ben Shapiro, the Pope of the Jews.
So the Trump kids are crying. Did you see this?
Let's do it. I mean, come on, everybody, folks, this is all for you. I mean,
look, I have no qualms about mocking these people. They're not losing a loved one. They're leaving power, and they abuse this power to abuse human beings on a regular basis and enrich themselves. I drink their tears. I love it.
I want to remind people, out the door. This is what
there's
the
no
Trump
audio, so we can just talk over it. Yeah.
Oh, there's no audio. Oh, there they are. They're.
Kimberly's weeping.
They're weeping. They're weeping.
We got more though. I mean, Ivanka, I don't know if she's in this video, but she was crying very much. Eric, this is at their father's speech. It was so moving, probably so eloquent that they couldn't control themselves. The end of an era.
I really hope that these people are shunned, but I don't think that they will be. They'll be, somebody will be like, oh, we've got the Trumps at our dinner party tonight, or whatever it is. Just in the last 24 hours, the Trump administration issued executive, administrative orders. Social service providers can discriminate based upon sexual orientation. Adoption agencies can turn away same-sex couples. Homeless shelters can turn away queer teenagers.
Queer teenagers have the highest rate of homelessness, or higher rates of homelessness than I believe any other group. So
how demented and repugnant. I mean, look, and over the next couple of days, people need to appreciate this. the Biden administration has a massive job to do just to I don't think we fully appreciate, and I think just broadly speaking, there isn't an appreciation of just how much damage to the basic functioning of our government has been perpetrated by the Trump administration. On top of which, all of these laws, I mean, it's not easy. It's not, you just don't sit there and just flick a switch and get these things reversed. You got to put people on it, and they got to write up stuff, and they got to file it, and they got to go through it. And it's like, yes, you have all these resources, but it's not like you get extra. It's not like you come into the presidency and they're like, look, Donald Trump did a lot of effed up things, so you get an extra 20% budget to deal with this stuff. There's a finite amount of resources, and you're dedicating them, and you've got to dedicate a huge chunk of it to COVID. And I'm not even talking about that we have a budget to deal with this stuff. It's like from an administrative perspective, it's not like you're going to build another office building. You could probably build another 12-story office building on the back of the White House with all the people that they would need just to work on undoing all of the stuff that is reprehensible like this. EPA, USDA, FDA, I mean, all of this stuff. And so much of the Biden administration, the energy is going to be dedicated on that early on.
What is the cognitive dissonance? I mean, I guess it's just rich silver spoon or golden garish spoon kid syndrome to be able to weep like that and believe that you were doing some sort of good for the country. I mean, they grew up in New York. They grew up around gay people. They grew up around, I don't know, some semblance of multiculturalism. I understand that they're in a wealthy bubble, but they have convinced themselves that no.
Some of the stuff needs to be done for them to profit.
Right, but that's how you get, it's fascinating human psychology. They get themselves to believe that they're doing good so that they can sleep at night when they're enriching themselves overseas, Kushner in Saudi Arabia, all of these corrupt deals. I have zero sympathy for them. I have negative sympathy if that's possible. And since we don't have Trump's Twitter account to watch him melt down in real time and enjoy it, I'll take the Trump kids crying at his, bullshit speech.
Let's play one or two more clips of Trump's final speech, because we won't be playing stuff about Trump for probably at least a couple of days. Who knows where but here is Donald Trump, his parting speech, ladies and gentlemen, parting such sweet sorrow. And here he is. I don't know, which clip do you want to play of this, guys? Which one's better, one or two?
One is better than two, I would say.
Yeah, let's do one. He left it all on the field.
I think you're going to see those numbers really skyrocket downward. And I can only say
one
this.
Second. He was talking about the coronavirus cases. And just for those of you who are not rocket scientists, you don't want something to skyrocket downward, because that is implying a horrible, tragic crash.
We got a real challenger ahead of us, a real challenger these days, but it's just going to blow right up.
You want your skyrocket to go up.
To the moon.
It is skyrocketing downward,
That's a ground rocket.
it's a ground rocket, and that's not a good situation for the rocket. Just to let you know, the idea that this cretinous human being even can utter a word about the direction of coronavirus cases in this country. I'm so old, I remember when he said, it's just going to disappear one day like magic. And it will, probably. It's just that one day is going to come after, 5, 6, probably 7, maybe 750,000 Americans die. I mean, it's highly unlikely that we're not going to, we're going to break 500,000. I mean, that's just, I'm sorry, that's what's going to happen.
In the next 4 weeks.
Probably going to do that in the next, month or month and a half at the most. And then it's going to skyrocket it down and then a massive explosion, and everyone's going to probably get jet fuel on them and burn to death. I mean, no, the good part about that. Good.
I think you're going to see those numbers really skyrocket downward. And I can only say this, we have worked hard. We've left it all, as the athletes would say, we've left it all in the field. We don't have to. We don't have to come and say, we'll never say in a month when we're sitting in Florida, we're not going to be looking at each other and saying, you know, if we only worked a little bit harder, you can't work harder.
If only we took
And we had
COVID
a lot
more
of
seriously.
obstacles, and we went through the obstacles.
Pause it for 1 second. If there's ever been anything that he has said that I think is truthful and you can rely on, there is not going to be a moment where he looks at each other. I don't know who he's looking at, because I would imagine within 30 days, Melania will have moved out of the house. He's not going to look at anybody and say, I could have worked harder. I'm quite convinced that Donald Trump will go to his grave and never, ever, ever utter anything like that. I think you can take that to the bank. Continue.
A bit harder. You can't work harder. And we had a lot of obstacles, and we went through the obstacles, and we just got 75 million votes, and that's a record in the history of sitting presidents. That's an all-time record by a lot, by many millions in the history of sitting presidents. It's been really just an honor.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, the thing is that the other guy got more.
Yeah, well, okay. Technical
Not a
detail.
sitting president, though.
He came in second. That's not bad. That's not bad, unless it's a two-man race.
Yeah, second in history. I got way more than George Washington.
I'm going to go down in history. Not as, it's going to be, when history talks about me, they're going to ignore the part about the 2 impeachments. They're going to ignore the part about the insurrection in the Capitol. They're going to ignore the part about ignoring the pandemic and leading to hundreds of thousands more people than in 1918. People don't talk about that. We did better. We're going to do better with this pandemic. More people are going to die. So there's that. And they're not going to talk about any of that. They're going to talk about how I got more votes up until that point of any sitting president.
I know he's been a gross president, and it's hard to, talk about this too lightly, but the idea of what's going to be in his presidential library, like a big wall of him saying most votes all time by a sitting president or something to that effect, is just, I can't wait to get there.
No, I mean, there are things that we will miss. Like, he had incredible moments and sound bites. Look, I mean, he was hilarious in so many ways, and that is the one aspect that I will miss, just the force of him as a human being.
Someone
and the
should
little
make
bizarre things.
Someone should make a virtual reality Trump presidency. Here's what I would include in it. The first exhibit, you walk in and there's a wall, right? And it's a picture of, and you want stuff for kids, right? You want it to be interactive so the kids can interact. And you put up on the wall a picture of his inauguration crowd, and you allow kids to come in and draw people into it. So they just keep adding on the wall. So it looks like every time a kid comes in, they can add a picture of another person who was at his inauguration and fill out the entire mall. I think that would be a fun thing for the kids, right?
Yeah, that's kind of beautiful. It's like some sort of mural of peace.
Some level. It's right. You can make Donald Trump's dreams come true. And build on history. You can be part of history. You can make history.
You can make.
And then sometime, it may take a couple hundred years. Enough kids will have come through that museum and will have actually given him a record of the number of people who were at the inauguration.
It's beautiful.
Calling from a 917 area code. Who is this? Where are you calling from? 917. 917. hard. My phone thing is not. The person's there. All right. Now that person is Gonzo. Oh. Calling from a 447. Wait, maybe this might be an overseas call. 44730. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Oh, yes. That's myself. This is Artie from London.
Artie from London. What's on your mind?
Well, we're all breathing a sigh of relief over here in Europe. However, I think you're being a bit too hard on President Biden. His approach to the Republicans is like, that loathed colleague you just sort of always said hello to and would ignore you. I think he's taking that approach. He's going to show them up for the obstructionist traitors they really are. And I actually think it's a clever strategy.
Well, I mean, that's what we're saying is that if it's a strategy and he moves forward with reconciliation and uses it to leverage the removal of the filibuster, I will give him all the credit in the world. If it is not a strategy, but it is a genuine belief that he can actually find common ground with these people, then it is a massive, massive mistake that cannot be understated. And so the best thing for us to do, I think, broadly speaking, in this country is to, make sure that we act in such a way that it's actually the latter and not the former. Because if we push and we push and we push, and it happens to work that he actually was just using that as an excuse or as a ruse or a strategy, then great. And if he's not, then we can still maybe salvage something. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting point to speculate on, but I think the job of people who want to see more left leaning policies from Biden stays the same.
I think it does. I would also add, I had a very lovely American colleague once at university who was constantly reminding me of the fact that the United Kingdom didn't have a real democracy since we had a queen as a head of state. Before I seduced him, he did serve in Iraq and was one of these incredibly irritating Republicans. I pointed out to him that George W. Bush did not win by a popular vote, and he was speechless. So I think America needs to take stock. It needs to understand what's happened, and I don't think the rest of the world will ever tolerate an American regime telling it how to run its affairs or lecture it on democracy.
I mean, I wouldn't blame the rest of the world if that was the case. And I will tell you this, if there is one thing that Americans are really good at, it is not self-reflection. And so, but I think your words about the rest of the world not necessarily listening to our lectures, I think that's going to be the case. Appreciate the call. What else we got that we should play here?
Well, I have one that's near and dear to my heart.
Please.
If you'll allow it. We're going to be seeing a lot of fawning coverage of Biden, I predict, for the foreseeable future. And it's already starting, and I think it's important that we call it out because it's pretty insufferable. CNN made some ridiculous comments that just bordered on propaganda, basically, about Joe Biden, the contributor David Chalian, last night.
There's still some tinkering going on with the inaugural address, but his aides have made really clear it's not like he's trying to ignore or paper over either what happened at the Capitol 2 weeks ago or what we've been through throughout 4 years of the Trump presidency. And the contrast on display tonight was so stark. I mean, those lights that are just shooting out from the Lincoln Memorial along the reflecting pool, it's like almost extensions of Joe Biden's arms embracing America. It was a moment where the new president came to town and sort of convened the country in this moment of remembrance, outstretching his arms. And contrast that with that video you just saw of a disgraced president on his way out at his lowest point in his presidency at the very end here by himself, fighting for his political movement to live on, and not even necessarily promising that he's going to be leading that movement, you noted in his remarks tonight. I just think that sort of isolated.
So, I mean, this romanticism of our institutions, and particularly centrism, which is the ideology that Joe Biden has run with his entire career, even if now he's at the center of the Democratic Party, which has moved further left. I mean, it is a disease. It completely warps the media's view of politics. It's disconnected from how everybody feels. Nobody saw the lights reflecting off the pool at the Lincoln Memorial and thought, that's Joe Biden giving me a nice hug. Like, it's demented.
I think he was just microdosing LSD.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to have a little party on the last night of the Trump presidency. And I don't mean to be too harsh, because I know that a lot of these people in the media, they do mean well. But like, that makes no sense. And it's also the direct reason in many respects as to why we had conditions that led to Trump in the first place. This lionization of a corrupt political establishment and a political class that the media didn't necessarily actually combat in any substantive way until Trump came around, and then it was just Trump. And we're gonna rehabilitate Republicans starting in 5 days.
I don't think it's going to take that long. I will agree with you that there is, and particularly on days like today, like inauguration, it's all like, the writers of the West Wing were basically taken out and shot up with steroids and then told to tell everybody what to say. With that said, the other problem, put up this tweet that I just put in there. The flip side of that, look at this. This is here, zoom in on that and the one below it too, actually. It is, they are knocking Joe Biden for his,
do you know what that is, Sam?
Yeah, it's a Peloton.
Peloton.
And it is, they are writing a story about Joe from Scranton, right? Like, this guy is everyday Joe, but he has a fancy exercise bike. And it's like, are you serious? Are we really do we have to get that granular about Joe Biden that here it is. Biden has a Peloton bike that raises issues at the House. It doesn't exactly comport with his regular Joe from Scranton persona. Like, are you effing serious?
Well, they think it's all cosplay, Sam, because it's not. Biden's been in politics for 50 years. He's not regular Joe from Scranton. He's been a senator since his 20s. So he doesn't but that's how they see politics, right? So some of the media he's regular Joe, so he's got to perform it.
Well, let's see, even if he wasn't in politics, most people who own Pelotons don't work in politics. You can be regular Joe. I got news for you. Regular Joes in Scranton, They may have a workout room in their garage, or they have a gym membership, or maybe they do have like the one. I spent some cash. I bought an ATV. Which costs, I don't know how much a Peloton costs, to be honest with you. But
It's like over $1,000. But
okay.
but
there's no doubt in my mind a regular Joe from Scranton has something that may be worth $1,000. But this guy's the president of the United States, and you're saying like we're focusing on his exercise bike. We got 400,000 Americans dead.
Michelle had one, by the way.
Couple $100,000, 100,000 people dead in the next month or two. No one gives an S about his Peloton bike. There is a disease that these reporters have.
I know, but I think that's distinct from the one I was, delineating before.
It's the flip side. It's the flip side of the same coin. How so? Well, I mean, on one hand, it's like they are looking at like all of the metaphor, and they're looking at like, they're trying to project onto Joe Biden all the great things about America, and that he is, signifying it. Simultaneously, though, you have like these other sort of myths about Joe from Scranton. Like you say, it's a myth. It's the same. It's the flip side of the same myth. And the idea that, this is like, it's not important to us whether John Kerry eats his pizza with a fork or not. Yeah. Or puts ketchup on his eggs or doesn't, or whatever it is. In any more so than it is that, like, lights on the memorial, on the Washington Memorial look like that they're Joe Biden's arms reaching out to hug us all. I mean, it's all of.
But the latter is about like mythologizing American power and pretending it's some sort of distinct and benevolent force in the world. I mean, that's what the media wants to do. They want to return to that fantasy. And I think that that's an even more dangerous fiction that a lot of the legacy media subscribes to. And that's primarily what Trump, why they were infuriated by him, was because he didn't uphold the myth and the beauty of America and the institutions and the big club that everybody's a part of and everybody feeds off of. And so I
think it's deeper than that, because I think it's not so much the specific myth that they wanted to maintain. It's that they couldn't deal with myths, that they could. And like, that's the thing, that's what I'm saying, is that the Joe from Scranton and the, light on a shining hill, the beacon on a shining hill, this is all just like both of them. It's all, it's cosplay. The point is that you assess politicians based upon their policies. You assess politicians based upon the political machinations that they're doing to impose an agenda. The reason why I didn't like Trump was not just specifically because he broke that narrow myth. It's that like, wow, shit's too real. We've actually like have such a distinct, like sort of like conflict here that there's actually like, it's so obvious what is happening on the reality. It's so obvious that there's this sort of like that the mythology that, broadly speaking, that we have constructed about American politics, which involve like America's role in the world and America's, relationship with their president and all of which are just all mythology. Trump wouldn't allow them to sit in that area because, frankly, it's like this guy, Chalian, right? He was a drama major, right? You said
that's the least shocking thing about that.
Well, but the point is that like you don't need to do anything to do either of those things. There's nothing. You could pull somebody off the street and go like, "Hey, this guy's regular Joe. He's got a Peloton. There's conflict." Or, Joe Biden loves.
They go with, right? Like everyone in media deals with narratives to some extent. I mean,
but it's not. Everybody deals with narratives, but these are completely irrelevant, manufactured
100%.
and fantastical.
And in fact, dangerous. I mean, the ones that protect power are dangerous. And like
all of them are dangerous because they all protect power because they mystify politics.
But I mean, we engage in narratives. We believe that progressivism is the right way to go. That's not a dangerous one, though.
There's a difference between narratives and mythological narratives.
Agreed.
Narratives is one thing, of course, but the idea that you're dealing with stuff that is completely irrelevant to what these people do, that's what's problematic. I mean, yes, it gets deployed in American, exceptionalism, and it gets deployed in the way that we're imperialist, but it also gets deployed in ways that we don't understand what is important about our politics. And those two things are, they're different in what they bring about, but they're both just as dangerous, because if people if people are so far removed from the implications of their politics that they think it's like that regular Joe having a Peloton is an issue one way or another, politics are not going to work the way they're supposed to work, which is to provide what people want.
Yeah. I think what irks me the most about the CNN clip, though, is the American exceptionalism aspect and the fact that, we were started as a nation in opposition in theory to monarchies and into this dynastic vision of power. And we've almost just transitioned into a different iteration of that, which is this like celebrity worship aspect of power. And also just this, which is what you're talking about, but this obsession with our institutions and this like almost religious aspect of it, and how, the Lincoln Memorial and Joe Biden with his arms around the hundreds of millions of Americans. Like, that is a bizarre way to view leadership and politicians, especially when you're supposed to be adversarial to them. As somebody who's a part of the media, it's bizarre to me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I do think I understand at least, on this day, the desire to have a president who seems at least to care about the fact that 400,000 of, the people in their country has died. I mean, like that,
We're celebrating that, yes. But I mean, again, I think like my reaction to the inauguration speech was like, as soon as it's done, okay, let's get to work. Like, I think that has to be the perspective.
I just want to say, I think it's psycho that CNN would waste people's attention with a completely nothing couple minutes like that guy gave his audience. I mean, that is really edging out actual politics and good use of people's attention.
And why do Trump supporters think the media hates them? I mean, and is biased against Trump. I mean, obviously it's a lot of his nonsense, but like clips like that don't help.
Nope. I thought it was beautiful. I did cry though when he was saying that. Boston Bernie Bro. Sam, I can't believe you had the gall to be hawking your sugar-free cereal while the Honorable Garth Brooks was performing. I missed that. Sorry. Casey Kasem Soleimani. I have information that will lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton. Does anyone have Joe Biden's email address or landline number? Sam's favorite apple. Hi, Sam. What are your thoughts on Brayburn being ranked the best apple? It's a joke. One man caravan. Let's pay close attention to how fast the rehabilitation of the Trump administration personnel. I think Bill Maher will be instrumental, and he's already had Kellyanne Conway on, and it's just a matter of time until Barr, Wolf, and Stephen Miller are features on the 24 Hours news cycle. I agree. Although my daughter sent me Kellyanne Conway's kids like TikToks, and Jesus.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I feel bad that that's played out in public like that.
Horrible. Rachel on fire. Ladies and gentlemen, our long national nightmare is over. Hey, guys, day one, AT, after Trump, I guess. I caution you to be careful about being too cynical with less progressive leftists. A lot of people want to believe the platitudes. We can easily turn them off with too much cynicism. I agree. I mean, I'm trying to be conscious of that, BB Teach. I agree.
But that's because we're sellouts, so. Right. But like, that's the line you walk. There's no one who's happy. Right. I mean, I just think we got to just be true to ourselves in that area. Cause
Yes, no, I agree. But I do think that, like, part of, to the extent that there's any sort of like, I don't know how much of our audience is actually on Peacock. It's conceivable there's like 10 people watching. It's conceivable there's more. But, part of the agenda of being on that platform, in fact, maybe all of it, is, the idea of like, hey, maybe we can pull some of these people into a little bit more leftist perspective. And, one of the things they teach you in that, in your media training or communications, it's actually, it's really the only thing I know because I read it once in a book. You get into the circle of trust, right? And that's where, when you first communicate with people, you indicate to them that, like, we have shared experience. And I think there's a lot of people. I mean, this is where I walk that line, right? Because I remember the feeling of alienation when I looked around. Everybody's like, yeah, Bill Clinton. I'm like, seriously? Like, I can see like but really? And on one level, if you pull the rug out from people very quickly, they get a little bit upset. Sometimes you got to ease it out. I mean, I understand that point. Like, there's a lot of people who responded well, who are just excited to see a president who doesn't make them, nauseous. Although I imagine there's also, a good 30, 40, 50 million people who are, feeling a little nauseous that Joe Biden's the president. They can't understand how it happened. So, wild card 2-6. We left it all on the field, just like 0-16 Detroit Lions. Joke for Emma.
Huh.
Alex in Denver. I relieved that the president is at least somewhat someone we have the possibility of pressuring. We have a lot of work to do, but at least we can do it now. Yes. Flair Child. Love you all so much. Please, a shofar for wife and baby Vivian June, due in April. Are you really getting out ahead of it?
Congrats.
App in Virginia, App in Va. I prefer Pillow Guy's earlier work. Our boy Bernie at the inauguration in his one winter jacket. I saw pictures of that.
And his mittens, his Vermont made mittens. I mean, I love it. Like, I'm united with him in just disdain for those kinds of ceremonies. Like, I could skip graduation ceremonies. I could skip all, like, sitting outdoors. It's cold. It's January. Graduations, it's usually really hot. You sweat.
That, yes, I can't. I functions in general, I'm basically over.
I'm anti-function, so.
Science people don't care about your fifis. It does seem the Parler shutdown helped disrupt any plans for today. Also, one of the instigators, Colonel Perez, was arrested and turned out he was never in the military. Also, Parler is back up on Russian servers and still doesn't have two-factor authentication. Sweater Daddy Sam. We're going to know by the end of February whether this is a Democratic Party aiming to lose 10 or 50 seats in the House in 2022. Frankly, I'm not as optimistic of those of you on the show. I would say we're probably going to know closer to March. And I don't know. The optimism doesn't cost you anything as long as you operate in a manner as if you were not that optimistic. Freedom Poutine. Mike Lindell sends a lot of his money to that channel, Right Side Broadcasting Network. They've had him on for extended interviews all week. Silver Ball Stud. I blasted the Who's Won't Get Fooled Again out my neighborhood after the swearing in, and I'm blasting the final 30 seconds. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss bit every hour on the hour. Emma, what are your favorite protest songs? I'll cue them up.
Protest songs? I'm not good. I mean, Sam knows that I'm not hip with music.
Don't look at me. I didn't even know who Jennifer Lopez was when she came
Oh my
on.
God, yeah. Sam Sam
I was
messages
trying
us.
to like.
Who's
I
that?
recognized Lady Gaga.
There you go.
And I knew she was famous when she came down and she started singing, and we were coming out of the break. And I wanted to say that was Jennifer Lopez singing the thing, and I didn't know what her name was.
Well, I mean, she only has been like one of the most recognizable stars for like the past 25 years. It was dating Ben Affleck. That was huge.
Yeah, I know. That's what I couldn't believe. Like she's been around for a long time.
Well, she's stunning. I mean, she's really like, I know she's rich, so she can keep up with it, but she looks just incredible. Envious of her.
She looked great. That's why I assume, like, she must be somebody
younger.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't really have
J-Lo. I know what I'm talking about. Jenny from the Hood.
Nope, I'd say Jenny from the block. You
Jenny
silly
from the block.
man.
All right, there you go.
You went out on a limb.
I went out on a limb. I tried to be hip with the kids
Jenny
from 25 years ago.
No Go for Louis McNeese by The Cleaners from Venus would be my song.
I like Careers in Combat by Parquet Courts.
Jesus, so much cooler than me. I told Sam I was listening to the Eagles while I was prepping for work the other day.
I just heard a song about Margaret Thatcher dying. That's what I was listening to today. Can't even remember what it was now. Andrew from DC, did you see this Greenwald tweet about how the second impeachment was really about preventing Trump from pardoning Snowden and Assange? His brain is his broken. Sad development for great reporting. I responded to that tweet. He said it was a big reason that they did the second impeachment because they wanted to. It was leverage to make him nervous about getting convicted in the Senate. And I guess big is a pretty open-ended word, and it's quite possible that maybe Trump was nervous about pardoning people because of the impeachment, but it would be very hard to imagine that keeping Trump from pardoning Snowden and Assange was more important to members of Congress than the fact that many of them thought they were going to die at the hands of an insurrection that ended up killing a bunch of people, or 4 people, 5 people.
That's a awful take by him.
I would say that is a little bit motivated by one's own priors. Fade away. I'm going to geek out a bit here, Sam. I feel like we're at the end of the 2 towers right now. The battle Helm's Deep has been won, and Saruman, Trump, has been defeated. But the real enemy, Sauron, the GOP, is still out there with his knacked skulls, like McConnell, ready to do his bidding. Frodo and Sam, the squad, are heading for Mount Doom. Okay, I'm not going to finish reading.
No, come on, please do, because I actually think it's a decent analogy. But you have to tell, yes, you have to say who's
Frodo and Sam, the squad, are heading for Mount Doom, but I'm worried they're heading there without the ring. I'm worried that Aragorn, Biden, kept the ring for himself. And despite Gandalf's, Bernie's best efforts, we might be all effed and the Eagles can't swoop in and save us. But hey, we still won the battle.
Well, I mean, if your analogy were to hold, then Frodo and Sam would reach Mount Doom, and Frodo, I don't know who that would be in the squad, maybe like the weakest link, you think, would try to take the ring for himself. I mean, are you trying to say that one of the squad members is going to turn? I'm really trying to take this analogy to its.
I think you might be trying a little bit too hard on it.
You know what? Yeah. You know what? You might be right.
Saul and I got to start. We're gonna watch these so I can get refreshed on the. It's been a long time since I read The Hobbit.
Well, the Lord of the Rings movies are really they're great. They still hold up. And
the thing with The Hobbit though is it's shorter to read The Hobbit than it is to watch it.
The Hobbit movies are awful. Like I will stand.
Oh, is that right?
One of the most disappointing cinematic experiences of my life.
Like 6 hours, you can read the book in like about that time.
What are some other disappointing cinematic experiences of your life?
Do I watch the trilogy? Wait, do I watch The Lord of the Rings, but I read The Hobbit?
Yes.
And
that's exactly it.
And how do I sequence that? Do I have him read The Hobbit first and then watch The Lord of the Rings?
I think so. Or you could just watch it first, and then when he's ready, you can do the reading thing.
Reading The Lord of the Rings is tough. I've tried and I never finished. It's like pretty dense, but The Hobbit's a better read. Yeah,
I read that. I can't remember when I read it, but I feel like maybe it was like, I don't know,
And Brandon, to answer your question, I was so like the final Star Wars movie in the recent trilogy was such dog shit. That was like one of the more disappointing movie experiences when you go to see a movie and you're kind of into the lore. I've dug myself into this nerd
Woof
grave.
girl, gentle, loving reminder. Remember, you'd say you'd take a lot of calls today. It wouldn't be. I won't be one of them this time around, but I know it's easy to lose track of with the daily deluge of news. We've taken a bunch of calls, haven't we? Calling from a 209 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 209. 209.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Where are you calling from?
Daniel from California.
Daniel from California. What's on your mind, Daniel?
So now that Trump is no longer in office and Biden has been sworn in, the day does seem brighter, the air fresher, and the Sunset Lake CBD more potent. But
fair enough.
But I am cautiously optimistic for the various reasons your program has outlined since the day the election was called. But how would a majority reporter push back on, the worries people might have about, the minimum wage being raised to 15, causing inflation and job losses on a massive scale?
Well, one, we can look at the raising of the minimum wage in places like Seattle. I think if you Google it, you can find, I can't remember what it was. There was contiguous counties in the heartland where raising the minimum wage, actually, to the extent that had any impact at all, it was unemployment went down, which I think is only indicative of the fact that raising the minimum wage does not necessarily lead to employment going down. The fact is that it's going to raise the prices, probably in some instances, of things that you purchase. So if you buy like a hamburger, I think, and you can find this like on, off the top of my head, I can't remember now what company it was that, maybe it was McDonald's that came out and said, like, if we raise $15 an age, we're going to have to raise the price of our hamburgers by 8 cents. And it's like, that's not that dramatic. And we have no problems with inflation as it is now. And it's going to spur economic activity. And if we had kept up with the minimum wage in its relationship to productivity from 1969, the minimum wage today would be around $24, $25. So, and then when they say to you, well, if a minimum wage of 15 is good, why don't we just raise it to $100 an hour? You remind them that just because 2 Advil takes away your headache does not mean if you have a really bad headache, you should take 100 of those Advil.
That's pretty good.
I mean,
yeah, I was just.
What more do you want? You want me to call? You want me to stop by your house? I mean, I've given you everything you need, bud.
No, I think that's great. Like, I definitely wish I had that ready when I was talking to a friend who would not relent on, increasing the minimum wage is going to cause inflation. Like, everything's going to go up and it's going to nullify the increase. But I think. I think that those are definitely some good things to point out and look into.
It won't nullify the increase. It will not. No. It's going to, look, let's put it this way. We just had a period in this country for, I don't know how many months it was, like 4 or 5 months, right? Where we gave an extra $600 a week in unemployment insurance, on top of the unemployment insurance they got from the state. Did inflation rise? I mean, the theory? The theory is, the theory is that if you put that much more money out there, I don't know what they're saying, that the prices are going to raise on these commodities where these people work. The idea that, where are most of these jobs, sub minimum wage jobs? They're not in, they're in restaurants. Are restaurant prices going to go up nominally? They might, a little bit, not much. You're still going to go get a hamburger if it's 10 cents more. I don't care really where you're situated. But certainly if 10 cents is a big deal for you on a hamburger, it's much better that you're getting $15 of minimum wage. You know, there's it's just not going to offset it. It's just not going to, you know, if the idea is that the guy's saying that the raise in prices is going to balance it out for people making that increase in pay, that's make believe. That's not happening. Appreciate the call.
All right, thank you.
I mean, it sounded like he wanted me to come there and actually get into an argument with the guy, which
Tag team service, you have to be a member.
You have to be a member to do
Right.
that. That would be, but I would not be post-COVID. Maybe it's one of the member perks that we put in. Calling from a 215 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Sam, it's Mindy. How are you?
Mindy! Oh my gosh, you're exactly
Hey.
the person I wanted to talk to. Mindy, how are you feeling?
What?
You must be pretty excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I got the COVID vaccine yesterday.
Whoa, doubly excited. Wow, that's good.
Yes.
How did you get that?
Yes. So, well, my mother, first of all, I want to say, Emma, I love you. And number two, I want to say,
Thank you.
Emma
I love you
straight up
too,
stole
Mindy.
that sweatshirt.
Sorry?
Definitely stole that sweatshirt.
It's a
Emma
t-shirt.
definitely stole the sweatshirt.
It's a t-shirt.
Can you hear
So
me?
Yeah, we heard you.
yeah, you know, maybe
Okay.
maybe they shouldn't have hired me. They should have gone, you know, dug into my background a little.
No, it's fine.
Looked
It's
at my
fine. No, I might
kleptomaniac
have done that too.
tendencies.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, then I also wanted to say one other thing to Emma. A while ago, Emma was talking about how cute Chad Wolf was, and I was hysterical laughing because I thought Chad Wolf was cute too, but I felt bad that I thought Chad Wolf was cute. Because
Okay,
he's such
well,
a scumbag.
cute is okay. So on the Young Turks, I said to Anna or something like, maybe in the members thing, I said it's unfortunate that Chad Wolf is a good-looking guy. I regret maybe verbalizing that, but you know,
Yeah.
it happened.
And I heard you say that, and I was like, I know, he's so cute. And that was it. So I wanted to tell you that. Then the
Thank you.
other
I'm
thing
not
was,
alone, I guess.
Yeah. What? No, I got the vaccine. My mother's 85, and my daughter's getting married in February. And I wanted to take her to the wedding. It's only 20 people or 10 people, something. It's very small now. And my girlfriend's a nurse, and she gave me a tip on where to go, and I set her up for an appointment. And when I got there, my husband and I were there. They said, "You want the vaccine?" And I said, "No."
What?
You there?
Yeah. Why did you say no?
No, I got it. Yeah. No, I said, "Of course I want the vaccine," and they gave me the vaccine.
Oh, okay.
So I got it. I got the Moderna one, and it hurts, but it's good. And they were basically giving it to anybody that walked in to the place I went to in Pennsylvania. I mean, we drove really far. We drove to Allentown to get it, but we got it, and I got it. So I feel like a little relieved that I got it. I feel bad.
You got to
that
get the
I
second
got it
shot.
'cause I'm not a healthcare worker, but what?
You got to get the second shot.
I know. I'm getting the second shot on the 16th. I felt bad that I got it because the healthcare workers and frontline workers, but everybody I know was getting it because like their doctors' wives or like they knew somebody. So I said if I didn't get it, somebody else was going to take it. So I got it, and I feel bad that I got it, but I feel good that I got it. If that makes any sense.
I get it.
Like I'm on the fence on how I. All right, so that's it. And then the last thing I want to say to you is, do you know when he sent out the $400 checks? And you know how they were talking about like it wasn't going to help the economy? I have an eBay business, and my eBay business like exploded the week those checks went out. And now that there's no more checks, like it's flatlining. So there is a direct correlation to people spending. They're not keeping the money.
Well,
they're buying stuff with it.
there's no doubt in my mind. Well, first off, I would say you can't necessarily judge based upon your eBay business. That's not a significant enough data set to make a broad assumption. But broadly speaking, there is no doubt in my mind that folks, making less than $75,000 a year are when they get $400, they're spending it. I mean, you've had almost 1 million people lost their jobs last week, and that has a trickle down, a trickle on or a full on, has an effect. And, I think you give people in the, people who are not wealthy, $400, and they're going to go out and spend it. Of course, people have expenses that they've been deferring and whatnot. And so, yeah, there's no doubt in my mind.
No, people are definitely spending it. I mean, people I know that got it are spent it. They're not saving it. Nobody's saving it. I mean, people are like either paying their car payment with it. I mean, it wasn't a lot of money, but they're like going extra grocery shopping. I mean, people like felt a little secure with that when we got it. And then now that it's not here, and now people are really like, nobody's, I don't know. Do you know when they're going to start back up with the unemployment?
I mean, that should be kicking in soon. I mean, it should have already started to kick in.
Yeah, I mean, my husband hasn't worked since March, so it's hard. It's just, he cuts hair for a living. So, I mean, he works 2 days. He's got enough customers for 2 days a week.
Right.
I mean, we're not in bad shape, but, I mean, we're not, I mean, I'm not, if my air conditioner broke or something, I mean, we would like be a little nervous right now. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know why you would be running that right now, Mindy. I mean, it's the middle of January.
No, you know what I'm saying. Like,
yes. No, you would defer some you would defer some bigger expenses right now.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're not going, we're just not doing some things that we normally would do. Like, we need to, just dumb things. But, he's just not working. So it's a problem. But
yeah.
I don't know. I just wanted to say Happy New Year. I wanted to tell you I love Gemma. And
thank you so much.
Great. I miss Jamie.
Well, I mean, she's come, but she'll be here tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll hear her tomorrow. Right. No, it's good. And you're good and you look great. I saw you the other day. I was watching the TV and you look beautiful and you look healthy and everyone's good. I mean, I'm just nervous. I mean, I'm happy that he's gone. I'm not really as excited about some of the other people in my age group about what's going on. Like, they think it's going to be kumbaya. Like, they don't get it.
I gotta say, Mindy, I would have assumed like just even more exuberance from you, but I like it. I like the.
Yeah, I mean, I thought J-Lo looked great. I love Gaga today. I mean, I think Michelle's dress was gorgeous. I was looking at that, but I don't really think that. I mean, unless he grows, I mean. We have to push him or else nothing's going to get done. And I agree with you.
Yep.
We need to push him.
Yep.
And I don't know why there's still, and last question, and I'll let you go because I know it's late. Why is Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley still in the Senate? Why are these people still there? Good
question. I mean, there's still, I'm still seeing senators trying, arguing that they should be out. They should be pounding that. They should be pounding that, if only because it's just like it's going to kneecap these guys a little bit.
I mean, they got rid of Al Franken for touching a boob. I mean, this guy.
He didn't actually touch a boob, but yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree.
Well, it's just, I don't know why they're there, and I don't know why that girl's not arrested, that Laura Boebert and the other.
I'm not convinced that that Laura Boebert is out of I don't think she's out of the woods. We will keep an eye on that. Mindy, I love you. Thanks for calling. Happy New Year.
Thanks.
Hang in there.
You too.
Okay. Tell your husband.
Later, Mindy.
Chuck Raya, my goal in life is to call in someday and have you as excited to talk to me as you are to Mindy. I don't know. And Bonara, good to hear from Mindy. Unemployed Zoomer. I'm getting an extra $300 a week in addition to unemployment benefits right now. As of a few weeks ago, it's going to go up further in the next bill. The extra $300 is effectively double for me right now. I can't complain. I don't know if that number is going to go up, but I think what they're going to try and do is, instead of it being a limited amount of time, it's going to be tied to how the job market is. It's going to be an automatic stabilizer, more or less. All right. We're going to take one more phone call. Sorry, folks. I know we got a lot of people who have been on the phone for almost 2 hours. Calling from a 513 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? All right, they're gone. That was quick. We'll try it one more time. I'll just go down the list. I'm going to refresh the list. Here we go. Calling from a 425 area code. Where are you calling from? What? Right. What's going on here? 425. Right. That really, Jesus.
Fitting.
Loud. See me jump?
Yeah.
That was good. All right. You really got to hand it to somebody for hanging on for that long. 306 area code. Who's this? You are the final caller of this inaugural day.
Can you hear me?
Barely.
Sounds 100 feet away.
Bathroom? Wait, yeah, you're 100 feet away from your phone.
Hey, Sam, how's it going?
It's going good. Now back off your phone a little bit because now you're too loud.
Good. Sorry about that. Just calling up here from north of the border. Wishing you guys congratulations on your fabulous day. Long time listener. First time I got through. Just wanted to. I'm calling in from Regina here, and we just wanted to wish. What I was wanting to maybe call in is saying that more perspective of calling from Turtle Island, and I know America and stuff like that being our neighbors. It's more direction into the future. Like we have a lot of in Canada. We'd like to move forward. I guess I don't know how to mend the relationship after the last president has called us a national security threat. So it's just
what's your name?
Just some ideas moving forward.
What's your name?
Stay-at-home dad from the badge is what I came up with.
Okay, stay-at-home dad. So you are basically asking us.
I'm Regina, so it's a joke.
Oh, okay. Oh, stay-at-home. Okay. Now, so here we go. You're from Canada. You're trying to put out an olive branch to us. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes, sir. I know that one of the first things that the president does is usually comes up here, and with COVID times and stuff like that, we've just been, being neighbors and stuff like that. It's kind of build the wall sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's, interesting to think about different perspectives, like giving our demographics and stuff like that. I don't know how much, our neighbors are Minot in North Dakota. So, I mean, if anybody's looking at data and COVID, there's two stark contrasts and stuff like that. So it's just, I don't know. We have family on both sides of the border. So it's just, getting things open and trying to think more of Turtle Island and a big thing up here was the cancellation of the Keystone Pipeline, and the conservatives are moving away from the Trump to now that. So it's just thinking, more like that sort of thing. I know you guys have a lot of thinking.
Well, we're going to be, we're canceling Keystone Pipeline. I think that's one of the first things that Biden's doing. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, he did. And it's been all over the news up here.
Great.
Just been pretty crazy.
Well, listen.
So, but I mean, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, I hope I was just going to say that I hope our countries can come back to an agreement. And, Canada is important because where else would we get, some of our comedians and some decent hockey from?
Good hockey prospects. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just know how much Michael liked to shit on us, and it's not that we don't want to stand united and stuff. It's a different kind of situation.
Listen, let me just say this: when we ultimately invade, you're going to be one of the ones that we allow to maybe have some type of dual citizenship. So appreciate the
okay,
call.
Thanks.
All right, thanks.
He'll have a dignified role in the empire.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We'll put him on the list. Can we put him on the list?
Matt?
All right, folks, I'm sorry. That is all the time we have for the call-in portion of our program. And we're going to wrap up with a couple of IMs. We will be back here tomorrow. And now we're just at it with a different administration. One that hopefully is not as horrid. Quam. It's actually Dreamy Joe. Shelby from Phoenix. What a missed opportunity. Sleepy Joe and the My Pillow guy could have joined forces to create the My Sleepy Pillow.
Good.
Chico, why is it reasonable to have high expectation for Joe Biden? He was the candidate within the Democratic Party who most consistently campaigned against the progressive wing of the party and left-wing goals more generally. Him not meeting those expectations isn't as useful as being honest about the actual power of the left wing is within the party, which is to say extremely low. Both those things can exist simultaneously. And
I don't think we have high expectations for him.
That's what the whole transition period was for us on this show, was saying like we can win things where we can, but we have to be smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't mean that, high expectations in the sense that I think it's just that we should continue to demand. I think if you can have that sense of there is value in working towards pushing him. And also we do not have as much power as we need.
Yeah.
Those things are not incongruent.
Unless you're betting on outcomes, really it doesn't matter so much.
Right. What does it cost you to expect out of something? You can expect people to provide, I'm not saying that you should be deluded in those expectations or you should act upon them. Optimism in will, pessimism in intellect. People are just sometimes looking for a fight where it's not there. Joe Biden is clearly Q. It would have made sense. All right. Beat the Reaper. Does Biden have a petition site? Let's see. Attorney Andrew. Everyone remember when Bimmy Bohr said that he electing Trump would split the Republican Party? While most of Bimmy's prognostications involve little to zero anticipated effort on his part, he could start doing his part by pushing substantial parts of his audience into Trump's Patriot Party. Indeed. MSNB Seder. Peeved at how bad Blinken has already been between keeping capital of Israel as Jerusalem, indeed, not moving the embassy, recognizing Guaido as leader of Venezuela, indeed, agreeing that with Pompeo that China's Uyghur situation constitutes genocide. I mean, the China situation, I need more information on. I've seen conflicting reports, but it's bad.
Mean, either way, it's just an attempt for, I guess on Pompeo's part to ramp up anti-China rhetoric. It doesn't come from any principled place about genocide.
Mila's College Fund. Please use me to bankroll a Dave Rubin challenge to Newsom. He keeps teasing it. The investment will be worth it. How much weight has Trump gained? And the final IM of the day. Let's see. What do we got here? We got a lot of people in here. Uchiwali, waited forever online, and then you just dropped me. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Uchiwali. We'll try and get you last time. I didn't drop anybody, incidentally. There weren't people on there. I'll take one more IM. Sorry about that, dude. I didn't drop anybody up until just a second ago when we hung up. And the genuinely final IM of the day, Bob Dork in Bane voice. You merely adopted the soft collar shirt. I was born in it. molded by it. See you, folks. Matt, Brendan, Emma, good job today. Good inaugural day. Way to start off this new administration. See you, folks, tomorrow.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth